to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
And away we go on a Thursday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us. Along with James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Great to have you with us today and every day here on a Three Things Thursday. James, how are you?
Fantastic.
Do you have three things for us today? Do you have one thing for us today?
I always have three things.
Do you?
Thing number one, big pool party last night, end of season baseball extravaganza. We got a new pool director. I'd love to tell you about him. Number two, headed to Galveston.
New pool director.
Yeah.
What does a pool director do?
They oversee the community pool.
Got it.
It's a very important job.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just wondering what they're directing.
Think Reno 911 cop vibes in terms of wardrobe. Think wearing a I Hate Satan t-shirt in terms of vibes. He hates the devil and having less than 7 fully certified lifeguards on duty at any given time. Never felt safer being in the hands of this young lad.
And he's confident. He's got the cutoffs. It's quite the visual you've just experienced. Okay, so you're going to Galveston this weekend?
Yeah.
With all the other options available.
We wanted something within driving distance. We wanted something that had water. And we wanted to touch the ocean.
Got it. What about Port Aransas, Texas?
How far is that?
I don't know. Probably about the same distances. I mean, it's like 6-7 hours.
Is it? See, we have like a 4.5-hour cutoff. 6, 7. We have like a 4.5-hour cutoff.
Yeah.
3 kids in the car. We don't know how it's going to go. But Galveston kind of gets a bad rap.
For good reason.
It could be that the water's sharing the same color palette as sweet tea.
Could be.
But outside of that, I'm very excited. What are your thoughts on the ocean? Did you get in the ocean when you were in Maine?
Sure. But, I mean, it was like 65, 70 degrees. So, like, yeah, my feet were in the water at certain points. But, no, it was a little too chilly to do the full-on Maine swimming. Maine's not exactly, like beachfront property that you're swimming in and going to the beach at.
Hypothermia, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
I get it. But I have found that, for the most part, people are terrified of the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the ocean, and I can't wait to get in that water.
Let me ask you something. So you're not terrified by the ocean?
No.
You were just like, hey, drop me off anywhere in the middle of the ocean and I'm good to go.
You think,
nothing terrifying about it.
Why are we scared of the ocean? You think the Aztecs were checking shark reports before a day at the beach?
Well,
a little bit of salt water.
Going to the
think
beach.
They were having a low sodium diet? No.
Going to the beach and being afraid of the ocean are two different things, yes?
Okay, that's fair.
They could be.
Yeah, like
they're not mutually exclusive.
Middle of the ocean, it's very deep. There's got to be aliens there. I'd love to explore that. But in terms of beachfront ocean, no, I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I want to see what it's all about.
Nothing scary there, No. You're not going to have a shark wash ashore.
That never happens.
No, never happens.
Sharks, whales, dolphins, seals. Checks all the boxes.
If anything, if I'm a shark, why would I want human meat when there's way more attractive, way better food to eat in the ocean?
The ocean doesn't even know that we exist.
Have you ever seen Finding Nemo? I beg to differ, okay? I beg to differ.
Jaws.
The ocean's well aware. All right, so that's 2. What's 3?
Number 3.
By the way, speaking of, sorry, on the people are afraid of the ocean thing, is this like you just polled random people? How does this... Is your wife afraid of the ocean?
Yeah,
Are your kids afraid of the ocean?
All of the above. It's a trust tree. It's a circle of trust.
Got it. So we don't have to call anybody out.
Yeah, a lot of high-level credentials to get in the circle, but I would say that, yes, it comes from that. Then the third thing would be, have you ever been to Garland? Texas.
Yeah.
It's a town.
Yeah, it was Judy Garland's birthday yesterday. I went just in commemoration for the great birthday.
You have to. I didn't know that Garland is like the cowboy hat capital of the world.
Okay.
Apparently, they make a lot of celebrity cowboy hats. Beyonce, in her Levi's Jeans music video, was rocking a cowboy hat that was custom-made in Garland, Texas. It's a little tiny community in Garland.
Is there one store?
There's like a manufacturer.
3 major hat manufacturers that produce over 1 million cowboy hats.
Some towns have meat packing facilities, others have cowboy hat making facilities. I mean, Beyonce, that caught my attention right away. I said, I've got to write that down. They also have the world's largest cowboy hat in Garland, Texas, which it's actually not as big as you would think. It's just a lit-up statue, and it's not even that big of a statue. So somebody could easily outpace them there.
Yeah, I mean, somebody needs to build a 100-foot
And it's
cowboy
not,
hat.
It's not that.
And it can't be a statue made of a clay. It's got to be made of cowboy hat material.
But I
Leather.
learned when I heard about the cowboy hat,
Leather?
it has to be.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't know, the best of the best. I mean, Beyonce's wearing the cowboy hat, Ari. That's all I had to say. I don't know what the materials are. I don't know the fabric breakdown.
So why did you go to Garland? Are you looking for
No.
a cowboy hat? Are you looking for a new cowboy hat? I
No.
could see you rocking some Justin boots, a nice, cowboy hat, maybe
That's
a
it.
pearl snap.
No, we had dinner with some friends that wanted to go to Garland, and we said okay, and I left, using the word reckon as much as possible.
Of course.
So
yeah.
that's going to be sprinkled into the show.
Yeah.
I reckon the team that I've got at number 16 in the pecking order today might be in some trouble. Cowboy hats and big trucks, Garland, Texas.
So you went to dinner with friends that were going to get cowboy hats in Garland, and you learned all about Garland, Texas.
Not even that, just
Okay.
going to dinner in Garland, and then they were sharing.
Oh, you
all
went
these-
to dinner at Got it.
They're
Okay.
sharing all these fun facts about this cowboy hat plant. I said, I want to hear more about that. We can talk aliens in the ocean another day. I want to hear about these hats.
Yeah. Dallas is such an interesting place, the Metroplex, if you will, and just what you can find within each of the communities that compile the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Like, so we drove in Maine from Portland, Maine up to Bar Harbor, which is it's like 70, 80 miles, but you're winding through small towns. It takes 2.5, 3 hours, okay? And it was almost like straight out of the movie Cars with all of these towns you pass through where it's like you're on this highway, this 2-lane highway, and it's like there's the tire shop, and then you go another half mile down the road, and it's like, well, there's the diner,
Right.
and you go and there's the hotel, and it's like every single town we passed through was just like this recreation of the movie Cars where it's like small town. I mean, it's exactly what the movie's based off of it. It was just hilarious. In some respects, it's kind of like that with the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Totally, except the difference, like you go to Maine or Colorado's, another state where it's very similar, windy roads through the mountains. You hit one small town, half mile down the road, the other half of that same town. But there's this thing called land and real estate and nature between those stops.
Yes,
Here in
trees.
Dallas, it's just this massive spread of stuff. Roads, buildings, apartment complexes, hotels, restaurants.
Strip malls as far as the eye can see.
Bro, and I'm trying to find, I think I liked this tweet I saw yesterday.
Target, on the border, Chili's, Applebee's.
All
We
of
gotcha.
maybe I sent it to my wife, but it was a tweet and it was a map, and I love stuff like this because I'm a huge nerd. And it was a map of the Dallas, there it is, the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex, and just how big it is on a map. And it had all these other cities on top of the Metroplex map.
Wow.
To show you how big it is. San Diego, Charlotte, New Orleans, Richmond, Boise, Salt Lake City. All of those cities combined, and I'm leaving out others, same geographical radius as what the Metroplex is here in Dallas. Like, people don't understand. That's my number one thing, talking to people back home where I grew up. Like, what's it like in Dallas? I'm like, it's huge.
It's huge, and everything looks the same, so it's hard to differentiate. Taman?
It is. I remember I saw this on WFAA, the weather. Pete Delkus had said that the DFW Metroplex is the exact same land size as the entire state of Connecticut.
And you're from Connecticut.
Yeah. Literally. That's insane.
So you can go from border to border,
Yeah.
basically what we drive from Richardson to Fort Worth.
Yeah.
It's nuts, man.
Crazy to think that I asked you for 3 things, and you didn't even mention that the Knicks-Spurs game last night was off the chains. I'm assuming you didn't watch it or stay up for it because you don't like sports.
Stay up. Come on. I've got a very dedicated sleep.
The game was epic, though, and just the list of celebrities in the building was also epic. I mean, just a ridiculous list of those that were shown versus those that weren't shown a ton.
Right?
They should have their own Spike Lee camera. My God, that guy gets more FaceTime on camera than Taylor Swift does at a Kansas City Chiefs game. But it was epic. I mean, 29-point lead for the Spurs. They scored 41 points in the first quarter alone, and barely crack 100 in the game. It was a horrible collapse by the Spurs and was punctuated by, so it's a 1-point game. The Spurs have the lead. The Knicks have the ball. Jalen Brunson with a rare turnover. Brunson was fantastic in this game. He has a rare turnover. De'Aaron Fox has it, streaking down the court, but OG Anunoby's with him, and there's 14 seconds left. Pull the ball out. It's over.
Right.
They have to foul you. You go to the foul line. Instead, he goes for the layup. Anunoby blocks a shot. Anunoby was the MVP of this game because he had the follow-up layup after a Jalen Brunson missed three from like 40 feet to try to win the game. It was Anunoby that nobody marked. He goes untouched to the basket and flips it in for the win for the Knicks. It was epic, and, yeah, the Spurs just completely collapsed.
So all the celebrities that were there that weren't shown on camera, like that list is long too.
Yeah, oh, it's insane.
It's an awards show with a basketball game also being played. But Taman and I were talking about this last week. It feels like America is behind the Knicks in a way that I'm not sure America would be behind the Cowboys or the Yankees or one of those historic franchises.
No, that's a great point because they haven't historically won a lot.
Exactly. And I think that's the difference. It's been so long, and it hasn't quite been long enough for a franchise, sorry T-Chains, like the Cowboys. Like you and I, our generation, we hated the Cowboys growing up because they won so much. They were loud, they were obnoxious.
Yeah, but the thing is they're still loud and obnoxious and they don't win. That's why people still hate the Cowboys.
And it's like the Knicks, you almost feel bad for them in a way. They've got this owner that's wheels off all the time. They make terrible personnel decisions, and now all of a sudden they're good.
Yeah.
And I think if the Giants or the Jets had that type of season in the NFL, I think for the most part, like America would rally behind them.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. There's probably some truth to that, like the lovable losers aspect of the Knicks.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they haven't won since, 1973? And, it's Madison Square Garden is like the most epic place to play a basketball game and to watch a basketball game. I think all of that plays into it for sure. It's really interesting to me. Mike Brown is the coach of the Knicks, and Mike Brown's been around the NBA for a long time. He would be considered a quote-unquote retread head coach. If he wins an NBA championship here, I mean, think about his career where he coaches LeBron for the Cavs as a young coach when LeBron was a young player. I mean, he was a long-time assistant with the Spurs. When I was down in San Antonio covering the Spurs, kind of in between jobs as a head coach, Brown would be a part of the Spurs organization because he lives in San Antonio. For me, like for a guy that has kind of always been thought of as a second-tier level coach to win an NBA championship would be epic for Mike Brown. I'm almost cheering for Brown more than I am for anybody else.
Yeah. He entered the league as an assistant coach at the age of 27. He was only 35 when he got the Cavs job. So he's coaching LeBron, this generational talent, at the age of 35, in his mid-30s. And he's been around the league forever. So I think that in my brain he feels older to me than he actually is. The guy's only in his mid-50s. He's 55. But that would definitely stamp his resume if he was able to finally nab one.
Yeah. It's also incredible that the Mavs had both Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson, and now they have neither of them.
Look at David.
It's almost like when they had both Dirk Nowitzki and Steve Nash, except that they kept Nowitzki. In this case, they did not keep Luka, as we know.
One of my favorite viral tweets is the tweet that was the announcement that the Knicks had given Jalen Brunson that massive contract and the fallout from it because people thought it was just they were way overpaying him. He wasn't a franchise player, and look at me now.
Yeah, he was a second-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thought he was going to be what he is.
But he was also a really good college player.
Yeah.
He's
I
one of
watched
those
him
guys
completely destroy Kansas in the Final Four in 2012.
somewhere around there. Maybe later.
18.
Yeah, 2018.
18. 12 was when they lost the championship to Kentucky.
But
they all mold together for me.
He was one of those guys that was dominant in college, got drafted late because he was older. He didn't have the height or the build that the NBA's looking for. So he's a non-traditional player, and he's just balling out. Those are the stories that I love. That's what keeps me connected to the NBA in any way, more so than the international players or the one-and-dones, is the guys that I remember destroying people in college, late-round pick, and they do it in the pros.
Well, and the NBA is in a weird spot right now because there's a lot of parity. You know, we've entered an era that is unlike any other era previously in the history of the NBA, because like it's eras, decades have been controlled by one or two teams for the most part. Meaning, you go through every decade in the history of the NBA, and you're going to probably have two or three teams that have won championships within that decade. This year, this decade, and these last couple of decades have been littered with new teams every year, and the Knicks will be, no different than that. It's a weird era because the league has always been carried by the villains of, the top players and top teams that people want to watch to root against, and now it's like Boston and Denver and Milwaukee and the Knicks, and it's just this, large spread of different teams that have won. Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, 7 different teams have won the NBA title, the NBA championship in the last 7 seasons. 7 different teams. They're the only sport that can claim that.
So that would be 2020 was the Lakers.
So it goes back to 2019.
Okay, that'd be the Bucks.
Bucks are one of the 7. See if you can get all 7.
Okay.
Bucks, Lakers are 2 of the 7.
Bucks, Lakers, Celtics, Nuggets.
That's 4.
I feel like I'm missing an obvious one here.
Who won it last year?
The Thunder.
Oh, yeah,
Thunder,
Oklahoma City.
5.
Definitely missing an obvious
All
one
right,
at Oklahoma
so you're
City.
missing 2. One, I think, is obvious. The other, I think, is very much an outlier.
Golden State.
Golden State is 6.
That's the obvious
There's
one.
one more.
Give me
I'm
the
concerned about your memory. I'm going to tell you about a podcast. We just did this exercise 2 weeks ago.
Did we?
Yes, you and me. We did this exact same thing. And this exact same team is the team that held you up. That's what's amazing about this. I'm having major deja vu. Did this really happen?
Did this really
Were we
happen?
in a simulation? Was it a hologram show? Like, what happened?
Do you need a
We
hint?
just did this.
Okay, Eastern
Did I
Conference.
dream this? Did this happen, Taman?
It did happen.
It did happen.
I
Okay.
can give you a hint.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Eastern Conference or Western Conference?
Eastern.
Celtics.
Shot bounces on the back of the rim. It hits the front. It goes in from the corner.
Think Darren Peterson, but NBA.
Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, yeah. Toronto.
The Raptors.
The Raptors.
The Raptors.
Thank you. Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was amazing. We should do this exact same thing in a week
I don't think this is real life.
and see if I can.
You're wearing shorts and sandals. I'm convinced that we are in a simulation. This isn't real life.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, coming to you on Big 12 Studios, Big12Studios.com, the Big 12 Fast channels on your Roku device, Amazon Prime Video, DirecTV, YouTube, and more. And, of course, coming to you on TuneIn. Make sure to download the TuneIn app if you've not yet already and check out all of the work we're doing. We've got a new series we're starting. We finished up the road to Arlington. Now we're doing the pecking order, counting up 16-1. We're coming up with a consensus for this show on where we're ranking every Big 12 team from 16-1. This will take us all the way up until the 4th of July, and then after the 4th of July, we have the Toronto
Media
Raptors.
days.
Oh, yeah, Media Days.
Media days. I thought you were like asking me what our next series is. I was like, bro, I haven't got that far yet.
And, of course, we've got to talk about Brendan Sorsby, the latest as Day 3 hits on the Sorsby saga. That's all coming up, including what I think are the most jump-the-shark takes, stories, and narratives on Brendan Sorsby. That's next. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Jackson's in trouble now. David Bailey, he is a sack machine.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12's never sleeping, by the way. The men's and women's basketball opponent schedule matrices, if you will, since it's plural. Women's basketball at 11 a.m. Central, men's basketball 2 p.m. Central on Big 12 Social and on the web. That is today.
Today is Thursday?
Today's Thursday, June 11th, 2026.
So, yeah, that would be today.
Today at 11 a.m., the women's basketball college matrix will be. We'll know the opponents for every women's basketball and men's basketball game in 2026.
That's it. That's the best way to say it. I know
you.
what you mean. You will know who everybody's going to play in the Big 12. What do you guys think about the Big 12 maybe flirting with the idea of going back to 20 league games? That was really surprising from spring meetings.
Oh, I forgot you weren't with us. It's like, James, we've talked about this. What are you talking about?
So just I would love the speed dating version of what that might look like.
I'm gonna answer this in a different way than giving my first. I'll give you my opinion. Yeah, I think it's great. Right, more good basketball games. Like, I'm all for it. Now, I don't think it helps you. I think it probably helps you financially. I'm not sure it helps you enough financially to make it worth it. I don't think it helps you in the NCAA tournament.
Does it hurt you in the NCAA tournament?
Yes. Yeah, because that's like, if you have an 18-game schedule and you're in versus, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it can only hurt you. I don't think it can help you. Maybe it can help, but it just feels like it only can hurt you.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is I'd love to see what the calendar looks like with that. I don't think we try to shove 20 games into what is the same condensed league calendar as we have done before. That's where I think playing 20 could impact teams in a negative way for the NCAA tournament, because teams had a couple more buys with the 18-game schedule this year. But if you're going to play 20 games and you start those like mid-December, like the league used to several years ago, back in the day, if you will, then I think like December league games aren't going to hurt you in March. I don't think the wear and tear is that impactful. But it can be if you're trying to play 3 games a week. Then it very much could lead to more injuries and things of that nature.
What I think was interesting, though, and this was just an observation I made being at the spring meetings when this came up. You know, so this comes out publicly. There's a report about, you know, they're looking into this, and we actually saw Brett Yormark go up to Kelvin Sampson, and you could kind of get a sense of how Yormark operates in terms of how he socializes and tries to get everybody on board. He tries to get consensus amongst
lobbying.
Coaches, and which I think is one of the best characteristics of leadership, of trying to build consensus amongst the group, legitimate consensus. And so I don't know if it was his first conversation with the coach he had, but you could tell that, like, the relationship that he and Kelvin Sampson have, like, Kelvin's he's the kind of the ringleader, if you will, of all of the coaches. He's the elder statesman, and I think a lot of coaches will listen to him if he has an opinion on things. And so I think as Yormark's trying to build consensus, he goes first to the person that he thinks can help him build consensus the most.
Was Bill Self for or against it, or have any comment? Because I remember 2 years ago he was very adamantly against going to 20 league games.
You saying I probably should have asked him about that when I had the opportunity to interview him?
Or just at just casual conversation among you and Bill?
Yeah, either of the two. No, I didn't ask him that. Why would I ask him such a relevant question to ask a basketball coach in that situation? What a dumb question that was on your part.
But Kelvin is...
Way to do your job, Ari.
Kelvin is the guy, because when the league was playing 20 games during the conference portion of the schedule, it didn't impact Houston in a negative way. They played in the national championship game. So I see if we're for a 20-game schedule, Kelvin would be the guy. But we'll find out, I guess, down the road what Bill thinks about it.
Well, and again, I think financially it has to make the most sense, right? That means whatever value you get for adding those 2 extra games for every team, right? Is that exceed? I mean, we know that Yormark is extremely analytical in that perspectives, right? So they'll investigate, they'll look at the potential revenue boost, what that could look like, especially when it comes to that 2030 deal. It might not mean cash today in terms of increasing the value of the current TV deal. It won't, but it's more of the build up towards the 2030 deal when it's like we've got all of this inventory.
Yeah.
Speaking about building consensus, that's exactly what Brett Yormark is attempting to do right now with the Brendan Sorsby saga. And all of the reporting around this indicates that basically Texas Tech is on an island by itself. Now, we don't know how true that reporting is. We'll talk with Brandon Marcello coming up here from CBS Sports about that. But this is obviously the most difficult thing that Yormark has had to deal with since taking over as commissioner. And so we're about to learn a ton about his leadership. But you can tell he's trying to build consensus with this. We've hit day 3 now of this news cycle with Brendan Sorsby. Yesterday, Joey McGuire spoke at the Houston Touchdown Club. I think he did himself no favors from the PR perspective. What are your thoughts on it?
It's been a PR nightmare.
It's been handled so well by Texas Tech from a PR perspective up until this point.
Yeah. And Cody Campbell firing essentially a warning shot to the rest of the country is another PR.
Also feels like he needs to kind of go away a little bit.
He's been the most outspoken, biggest voice for Texas Tech. If I'm Joey McGuire, if I'm Kirby Hocutt, if I'm Brendan Sorsby, it's time to have that conversation. That, hey, dude, we love your support, but you're not in the locker room. You're not in team meetings. You're not breaking down film.
Thing is, I bet he is. Not the film, but the other two.
The other two. But it's time for you to kind of stay in your lane, because I don't think he's not doing Texas Tech any favors with the threats, number one, the warning shots that if you come after us, we're going to do this. And he keeps circling back to suing people and we'll see you in court. And his comments, like, good luck with that. Like, it's gone from the villain aspect, embracing that part of it, to just super aggressive or even passive aggressive, almost. And we've seen temper tantrums before. It really started with the scheduling aspect of it. But it's gotten to the point where I think it's hurting Texas Tech as a program in terms of the narrative more than it's helping them. And he helped them for a very long time. But it's time to have that chat, to get on the same page in terms of what is our message moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough spot for the leadership at Texas Tech, because how do you tell the guy that's writing the checks that funds most of your athletic department to step aside? You know, like, I'm a firm believer in, you know, it's better to be thought of as a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt. And I'm not calling Cody Campbell a fool, because he's certainly far from that. And you know, I respect the hell out of him, obviously. But, like, we do a show for 3 hours every day, 5 days a week. It's 15 hours every single week. You're bound to say stupid things over the course of that time, right? The more you open your mouth, the more you're bound to say stupid things.
Sure.
The less you open your mouth, the less you're likely to say stupid things. We're at a point now with Cody Campbell where it's like some of the things he says, they don't sound right. They sound uninformed. They sound condescending. They sound arrogant. Like, just talk less, and then you'll be thought of more. Talk less. Cody is just riding this media wave. Everything has to have a comment, and he's got an op-ed on this, and it's like just this endless noise from Cody. And it's like, dude, like most people, the more you open your mouth, the more stupid things come out of it.
Right. He's doing what? The Dan Dakich show yesterday, or Dakich, I should say. He's writing op-eds, as you noted. And remember, he has more skin in the game when it comes to college football collectively and what he's trying to get passed with legislation, more so than the Texas Tech program. Those are two separate things that he has very much bundled into one. And now everything he stands for, essentially politically, has been tied to Texas Tech because of just how outspoken he's been. The threats and taking to Twitter and getting in heated arguments with fans, like, that doesn't do it for me. That just seems childish to me. And
You need to be above that.
he's incredibly intelligent. It's time now for him to take that intelligence and pair it with his emotions. Emotional intelligence is what I find lacking
Yes.
in just his demeanor.
Yeah, great point. Here is Cody Campbell on the Dan Dakich show on Outkick.
It's because the college football world doesn't think that Texas Tech should be as good as we are. we've been a disruptor, just like Indiana has. And so we're a target, and we have been even before any of this started. Now, the volume has gone way up, and a lot of it's been directed at me and at Coach McGuire and at, our university. But that's not fair. If this had happened at LSU, people would say, it's LSU, they're always going to kind of do what they do, and, they're going to keep it. But it happened at Texas Tech, and, people don't want to compete with this. Of course, ADs in the Big 12 are saying crazy things and, saying they don't want to play us. Well, they don't want to play us because they know he's good, and they don't want us to be as competitive. They want to have a better chance at winning the conference. So they're inherently conflicted in their opinion. And so, again, we're going to do the right thing by this kid, and we're going to follow the law.
Okay, so there's probably some truth in that in terms of just the Texas Tech versus everybody mentality. You do yourself no favors publicly to say this. It's one of those things where it's like the more you over-explain, to try to justify your side, the more you sound like the person that's making excuses. It just doesn't sound right. It's not the right public PR approach. You're Cody Campbell. You're a billionaire that's, the tip of the spear at Texas Tech right now, and trying to quote unquote save college sports. To get thrown into a situation like this where you can make comments like that, it sounds awful, regardless of how much truth there is to it. And again, it's just one of those things where it's like the more you go to Twitter, the more you try to explain yourself, the worse you look. Stop doing that. Stay above this. You don't need to be below in the fray where all these other mouth breathers are, like myself.
Totally. It's not taking the high road. And calling out individual programs, and I wouldn't say that those were shots fired at Indiana, but it was at LSU. That's not the play. Read the room. America loves Indiana. Indiana's a tremendous story that the nation very much rallied around in support of. If you're reading the room, it should be easy to identify that it's the polar opposite. In a defensive stance is never a good play.
Exactly.
Because America feels unheard. He's not validated any of how America feels about this situation. And the better approach in my eyes, is to recognize what's happened, and instead of being over-the-top defensive about it, I understand where you're coming from. Basically the road that Brett Yormark has taken, which is, in his statements, they have been deliberate, they have been careful, and they have been neutral. Cody Campbell is very much coming off a guy who's got deep pockets, and because of those deep pockets, he has this power that is new and foreign to him, and he doesn't know how to handle it.
That's a great point, and I think extremely well said. Joey McGuire, by the way, I think he did himself no favors yesterday. Here's what he said at the Houston Touchdown Club.
Brendan Sorsby is recovering from an addiction. He's recovering. I've sat down with this young man multiple times, and the things that he is going through and what he's been through is serious. As a society, we've been okay with other things that happens and allowing players to play, and this has been the one thing that has united people that we're against, and it's crazy because it's not murder, it's not beating somebody, there's a lot of things that we're working through.
Man, I wish you wouldn't have said the last thing.
The last thing.
I mean, it was kind of perfect up until that point because, the amount of stuff I've read about, just the how people believe the addiction part is disingenuous, right? I mean, so many people just throw it away because it's an addiction to gambling in a way that I think people don't understand in the same way they do addiction to drugs or alcohol. But he answered the question in terms of what you were just saying about clearly America feels one way. Read the room here. Lean further into the addiction part and draw the comparison to other people that have gone through addiction. Don't go to murder or beating somebody up.
Comparisons also not the play. We love Joey McGuire. He is a friend of the program. He is awesome to us. But if I'm a PR manager, and this is crisis communications that we're talking about, the core message from Texas Tech should be we are supporting, and this is what he started to say, we are supporting a young man's recovery from a very serious addiction. Everything else needs to follow that. That is the North Star that every public statement, positioning needs to circle back to. Any moment or message that is bragging or threatening or trash talking, that's not it. Silence is a weapon right now for Texas Tech, and they're not using it. And it has potential to be their biggest weapon right now because you've got 3 months between now and when the season starts. They already won in court. They've already won in court. It's time to stop fighting. They don't need to fight.
Yeah, you're not going to win this
the court of
public
public
battle.
opinion.
And I think ultimately, look, it's easy to sit here in Monday morning quarterback the PR situation. I totally understand that. And again, we have great relationships with Texas Tech. They're great to us. They're great for the Big 12. But I think the PR approach they took the entire time was really good up until the point where the injunction happens. And that's when the most important, crucial part from a PR perspective, because you've got to take control of the narrative at that exact moment, and they let the world take control of the narrative. And once that happens, it's over. You've lost it. You can't gain it back. And so they've tried to gain it back by explaining all and come up with these reasons and rationale, and it just makes them look worse. Makes them look worse. You got to, at the front end of this, release a statement, come out publicly, like lean into the addiction part, right? Like these are things that are legitimate reasons to do it, and not all this other stuff that has kind of engulfed them right now. They're trying to fight their way out of a quarter, and they're not going to do it.
They are having a heated argument with a loved one. Their loved one is college football. They feel blindsided. This came out of nowhere. We know about the ruling, but we don't know about the aftermath in the moment. So they feel blindsided, and their reaction is to fight back immediately, to go on the defensive side of things. Whereas the play is to let America, or that loved one, which is college football, feel heard and validated and be silent, which has been the main message throughout this segment that I cannot agree with more.
Yeah, great point. James Wesley, Ari Temkin, Brandon Marcello for CBS Sports joins us next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Let's talk with our friend Brandon Marcello from CBS Sports. Brandon, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Never been more important to make the Brandon-Brendan distinction right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
A lot to get into with you, and I want to not make it only exclusively about Sorsby, but let's start obviously with Sorsby, and let's start with your tweet from June 9th. Every Big 12 AD but Texas Tech's Kirby Hocutt believes Brendan Sorsby shouldn't play. That was communicated today on the call. What do you know about the first athletic director's Brett Yormark call, and just kind of give us some more context to what you found out from that call?
Yeah, so, they've been trying to keep a pretty tight lid on it, but, as they try to make a very crucial decision here. But, it's was made very clear by the athletic directors that they all agreed that there needs to be some type of punishment, some type of pressure put on Texas Tech to either him declare him ineligible or the Big 12 to figure out a way to not allow Brendan Sorsby to play this season. That was communicated by the athletic directors. There was consensus there, I was told. And now we kind of just have to wait here. The presidents and chancellors still have to meet and discuss things, and this will probably stretch maybe even into next week as they discuss their options. And they got a lot to weigh here because obviously we've heard the threats yesterday about Texas Tech, legal action against the Big 12 or whoever there is any type of penalties or anything like that levied against them. So very possible this gets pretty ugly.
So, Brandon, what are some of the options that potentially could happen with the Big 12, Texas Tech, and then even like the College Football Playoff Committee?
There's been talk about withholding some of the money from the revenue payouts from the Big 12. There's also discussion, about whether they could do anything else. I know a lot of people have, I know it's very popular on social media to discuss Big 12 bylaws and whether you can, kick Texas Tech out or anything like that. No one's discussing that really, but they believe they have some options to look at here. Whether it's that, I will say that it's interesting from actually talking to some coaches that I haven't talked to many coaches that say they don't want to play, Texas Tech or anything like that. But what coaches believe and what ADs believe and presidents believe is usually pretty different from what I've seen, especially when it comes to controversial subjects and things like that. But I it'll be interesting to see what they actually do, if they do anything. At the end of the day, these Big 12 athletic directors are just hoping that Texas Tech, as the words of one AD told me in the Big 12, that they just come to their senses and do what's right.
You also, last night, tweeted about Texas Tech would consider legal action if athletic programs and/or conferences try to exclude them from their competition or hinder their scheduling. So it sounds like what you've reported and what others are reporting is like they're ready to go full bore in court against anybody that kind of tries to punish them in any way.
Yeah, and for me, people are going to wonder if that's just a scare tactic or if they really would do that. And I just don't know if you could sit there and really discuss whether they would actually do that, because in this day and age, everybody's taking everybody to court. And, when Texas Tech has obviously, it's very easy for people to just say, well, Texas Tech's got a billionaire booster, so they can do whatever they want and everything. And, while that's true, there's also you got to just look at the bigger picture here. I wrote a column that was published yesterday morning, and, there's bigger threats than just the Big 12 threatening to sanction or whatever Texas Tech. I mean, this is a issue that has short-term and long-range impacts. I mean, if Texas Tech ends up playing Brendan Sorsby and things get worse, so to speak, this season, I mean, you've got other conferences out there and other ADs who are discussing things among themselves about should we even be playing Texas Tech in the future, which has been discussed publicly by Nebraska and Georgia, but also should we be doing business with the Big 12 in the future? And not just on a team level, but some of these ADs think maybe our conference should be doing business with them at all in the future. This seems to be kind of the point of no return, a line that no one wants to cross, something that no one wants to deal with in the future and the ramifications of it, more so than anything we've seen over the last 6 years when it comes to rev share, the House settlement, Alston, everything. Because the one kind of constant throughout sports, professional, amateur, is you just don't bet on your sport, but you don't bet on your games, whether you're playing or not. And I think yesterday Texas Tech's statement and the way they've handled this just stoked the fires a little bit more from a lot of these athletic directors.
Brandon, what is, let's say, 2 or 3 months from now, in your opinion, a best case scenario for the sport, for the Big 12, for Texas Tech? And what is a worst case scenario in terms of changing the sport forever?
Well, best case would be, because there's only one program and one fan base that wants Brendan Sorsby to play as Texas Tech, the best thing would be for the health of the sport, I guess. And the potential fallout is for Brendan Sorsby not to play. The other question is, and I want to point out, Joey McGuire mentioned yesterday that Sorsby might not play in the third game, depending on how he goes about with his rehabilitation. So we'll see how that all goes if Texas Tech ends up deciding, hey, he's going to remain with our program. The worst thing that could happen is that they play Sorsby, Tech makes it into the playoff, and then the commissioners who make up the board, the executives on the CFP, are they put in a position where they have to discuss potentially keeping Texas Tech out of the postseason? Now, I've talked to people connected to the CFP, and for my sourcing is that they usually just follow whatever the NCAA says. They're not really an organization. They don't enforce rules. They don't punish things. They just follow kind of what the guidelines have been set by the NCAA and other conferences. But this is obviously a unique situation, and one where, a judge has said that the NCAA rules don't matter. And that's been the era we've been in for the last several years. How would the other conferences and the other schools handle that? I think you're seeing the tip of the iceberg when we see these schools already coming out in the immediate wake and aftermath of the judge's ruling say, I've told all my programs, don't schedule Texas Tech anymore. And if the Big 12 stands by Texas Tech with all this and there's no punishment or something to kind of make some people at least back away from their pitchforks outside the Big 12, I think the long-term ramifications in 5-10 years could be, nothing is really stopping the SEC and Big 10. We're not talking about a Super League. Nothing's stopping the SEC and Big 10 from just going, you know what? We're sick of playing nice with everybody. So as the Big 10, we're just going to play all conference games. We're not going to play any non-conference games anymore. Same with the SEC. And if we meet the Big 12 and the ACC in the postseason, so be it. But we're going to do this. We're going to amp up our schedule, get more money from our media partners when the media contracts open. And that all of a sudden, that average $40 million gap between the Big 12 and the Big 10 could skyrocket to $70 million or $80 million a year. And you tell me if that sounds like a winning game plan for the Big 12 to remain, one, competitive on the field, let alone off of it. And who knows what college athletics is even going to look like when we talk about revenue sharing, NIL. That's all being fought in the courts still. We had a House settlement hearing yesterday on whether these multimedia rights holders should be considered as an associated entities, and there's still a ruling to come on that here probably next week. There's just so many moving parts, and I think at this point we've gotten to where everybody feels like they can just challenge everything if they don't like it. If something affects some, and it's been like this in the NCAA forever, guys.
Right.
That if you want to enforce rules, everybody says that, but until it happens to you.
Everybody wants rules. Nobody wants to abide by them.
Right, exactly. And Tech, I think Tech is doing exactly what several other schools would probably do in this situation.
Yeah.
And no one wants to admit that among the schools, but they probably would because they've proven it time and time again in other situations. So it's just an absolute mess. And when we talk about worst case scenarios, I think everything's on the table, guys, because as we've seen in college sports the last 6 years, it seems like anything's possible.
Yeah, well said. Brandon Marcello, CBS Sports. Brandon, you do such a great job. Appreciate your time as always. Be well.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Go check out the great work that Brandon Marcello and his team at CBS Sports does in covering college sports. And I mean, look, he said it there, right? I mean, you have a bunch of programs that promised money to players based on NIL deals through their multimedia rights partners, and they have been denied that via the own college sports commission that they themselves set up and funded. They're now going back to courts to say, hey, can you, in the House settlement, add add part of this to say that this is a above-board deal? What happens if that's denied? What happens if that's denied? What happens if the court says, no, we're not going to add that? You got to figure that out amongst yourselves. So, like, the idea here that the Big 12 or Texas Tech will cause a super league, it's that is the, what do they call that? The what's the metaphor of the, man, I'm really screwing this one up. The bird and the canary in the coal mine. The canary in the coal mine. No, it's they're already heading towards that. If that's what they want, then they're going to go back and figure out reasons for it. But if they get denied this, they're going to create their own league and say, we're going to govern ourselves because they have deals they have to pay out. Mm-hmm. They have money promised to players they have to pay out. They need this to go that way.
And with Nebraska and Georgia being the two programs that are at the forefront of the don't schedule Texas Tech troop, if you will.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder, is the firestorm with the Brendan Sorsby case distracting us from something that could potentially be even bigger, which could be the Big Ten and the SEC behind closed doors?
Well, by the way, they're already doing that.
Right.
They already did that. We already see news about SEC Big 12 games being canceled. They're already doing it, right? Like, so they're just using this as an excuse
yeah.
in the public eye, but they're already doing it.
Right.
And then they create these like morally confusing, like arguments with Nebraska and Georgia at the forefront of it. Like, really? You're the one saying we need this House settlement to have this amendment to it to allow us to pay the players we've already promised money to.
Like, it feels like this.
That's cheating.
Leagues.
That's cheating. That's what that is.
Like, it feels like this is a distraction from what those two other leagues are trying to do. And they can use this as leverage and as an excuse and as a reason for why they continue to do what they do behind closed doors, which would most certainly be bad for the sport of college football. Division. And like, college football has never been more divided. And I think why this is so attention-grabbing, this scenario, is this is one thing where the nation outside of one school appears to be unified. But don't let it distract you from all the division that's already taking place in college football in real time as we know it.
Great point. That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. The pecking order is next. We decide who the preseason number 16 team is in the Big 12 next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Tight end in motion. And a quick slant again that's caught, and look out. Kobe Prentice, his second catch of the early hours of this one in the evening.
Yards. The one miscue. Oh, no miscue there. Touchdown, Kobe Prentice. His sixth of the year. Only 17 catches. All he does is catch touchdown.
Offset right as Robertson begins his drive. Steps up in the pocket. He pushes vertical. That's complete. Already inside the 30 of Houston.
Sawyer did a great job navigating that pocket, but watch Prentice on the back end. The route on the outside buys up one of the.
We're aided. A bounce from Oklahoma State. Wide open. Running free. Kobe Prentice. Give the man 6.
Just speed. You're talking about speed. Nothing to it. Just one
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Modelo fan rule number 99. There is no off in off season. There is only research, which takes us to the Pecking Order, brand new series we're starting that will take us right up until the 250th anniversary of the birth of this great nation. And then, of course, the following week will be Media Days. So this is where James and I have independently ranked every single team 1 through 16 preseason. We've done all the research. We've done all the off-season talking you can do. So now we're going to put our money where our mouth is and rank these teams. And so James and I will come together today. Who did he have number 16? Who do I have number 16? And then make arguments on behalf of each of these and then come up with a consensus on who the Big 12 today team is at number 16 and work our way all the way to 1.
And these are pre-Big 12 Media Day rankings. We'll have our post-Big 12 Media Days rankings.
I like that.
But I'm not so sure that much will change for me. I don't know that I have a ton of unanswered questions. You get a feel, you get a vibe for these players and their demeanor and how they are as humans, but usually at Media Days, there's not really any breaking news in terms of the programs. Everybody's excited about the upcoming season. So for me, I think I feel pretty good about where I have these teams 1 through 16.
Okay, so I think what we should do every day before we start is to find out if we already have consensus at number 16.
Okay.
So Taman has both of our lists. I have not seen your list. You've not seen mine.
Correct.
Taman, do we have consensus at number 16?
No.
Who do you have at 16?
Number 16, I have the Cincinnati Bearcats.
I have the Iowa State Cyclones at number 16. So we aren't too far off. So let's go back and forth here on why we picked each of our teams. So let's start with 2025, where they finished, how the season ending, conference standing, that stuff.
Yeah, simply for me, like Cincinnati, this is a program that was ranked 17th in the country last season in November and still couldn't figure out a way to close. And that's back-to-back seasons where this has been a real problem for Cincinnati. They go 7-6. They go 5-4 in Big 12 play. They were 7-1 at one point in time when they climbed to number 17 in the AP poll, and then they just completely collapsed. They got beat down 35-13 in the Liberty Bowl against Navy. That was the one game that Brendan Sorsby didn't play. I look at the holes that they're going to have to fill, what they've done in the offseason. Like, big picture, you're losing Jake Gaudet to the NFL. Dante Corleone, when he wasn't on the field last year, that defense was a shell of itself. Brendan Sorsby was maybe one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country last year based off of his portal interest this offseason, and you still barely finish a game above 500. I know the trajectory from 3 to 5 to 7 wins in Scott Satterfield's last 3 seasons, that looks good on paper, but the eye test, it's not quite doing it for me.
Yeah, Iowa State, very similar dynamic there. They were ranked 14th in the nation. They started 5-0, were ranked 14th in the nation. They finished 8-4. 5-4 in conference play. They got bit by the injury bug, and then regrouped a little bit to finish and rebound with some nice wins over TCU, Kansas, and Oklahoma State to reach bowl eligibility. Remember, Iowa State lost everybody before their bowl game and therefore did not play in a bowl game. They were fined $500,000 by the Big 12 for foregoing their bowl game. And now here they are as they lost 55 players to the portal, including every single coach, many of them at Penn State. All right, so what changed?
Biggest change for Cincinnati was with their coaching staff. Scott Satterfield is back, but their offensive coordinator, Brad Glenn, was not retained. They promoted from within. They're going to have co-offensive coordinators. Their quarterbacks coach, Pete Thomas, gets an upgrade, and their offensive line coach, Nick Cardwell, gets a pay raise.
My guess is Satterfield will call plays, and we'll have to ask him about that when it comes to Media Days.
Had the exact same thought, like he did at App State and Louisville. But the defensive coordinator, Tyson Veit, also left for Penn State. They replace him with Nate Woody, who comes from Army and on paper has had some stout defenses, but he's never coached at this level. They also lost their secondary coach. Eddie Hicks has departed for Arkansas. And then in the portal, man, you lose Sorsby. You also lose Christian Harrison, a star safety, to Arkansas. You lose Evan Pryor, your running back, RB1, to Florida. You lose Quan Sanks, a safety, to Indiana. And the other starting defensive tackle, Kamari Burns, transfers to Kansas State. So your quarterback, your best defensive back, multiple skill position guys all gone. The receivers off to the NFL. It's just too much to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, for Iowa State, what's changed? Probably better to Tell you what hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You had Matt Campbell, who had 72-55 in a decade in Ames, leading Iowa State to the Big 12 championship game in 2020 and 2024. So we've already been through this. Jimmy Rogers enters from Washington State. He went 6-6 in his one Power 4 season last year at Washington State. He won the national championship in 2023 at the FCS level at South Dakota State. He brings Tyler Roll from the Detroit Lions staff to be his offensive coordinator, and along with Jesse Bobbitt, he and Jimmy Rogers will run this defense. This will be, from a schematic standpoint, 180 degrees from where Iowa State has been. Right? Like, they were a spread offense with a spread defense, rush 3, drop 8. They're now going to be a more meat and potatoes, downhill power rushing football team that is going to play a more traditional 3-4, with again, more traditional defense. So it'll be very, very interesting this season in terms of just the schematic overhaul of this roster. All right, roster construction grade. What grade would you give this roster construction for Cincinnati as we evaluate who is number 16 in the Big 12?
Yeah, for Cincinnati, and my kind of theory is that they are struggling with NIL. They just poured a ton of money into that brand new, drop-dead, gorgeous practice facility that I think is eating into their roster budget. I give them a C, which I'm not going to have anybody in the Big 12 below a C. You lose your quarterback, both coordinators, running back, your top 2 wide receivers, your anchor on the defensive line, replacing a dual threat all Big 12 quarterback with a Georgia State transfer and an Ivy League transfer who only started 1 season at Penn.
And you only give them a C? Seems kind of high.
Well, nobody in the Big 12 is going to get below a C.
Why?
Everybody's going to get an average grade.
Wow, I wish you had you as a teacher.
All right, yeah, glass is half full. Oh, you should see the grades I'm giving my students, bro. You show up a couple times. ESPN ranked them 14th among Big 12 teams in their off-season outlook, ahead only of West Virginia and Iowa State, which I would argue West Virginia had a much better offseason in terms of addition. But they had over 25 players leave, and the 25 guys that left weren't backups. They were 25 key cogs. So roster construction, when I look at their portal class, I give them a C.
I'm going to give Iowa State a D because I don't know how I could give them a C. The question is, are they deeper, are they more talented, or are they thinner than last year? I'd say significantly more thinner. Now, look, this is a product of what happened to them. So I'm not blaming Iowa State for this. This is the hand they've been dealt, and they're dealing with it. And I think Jimmy Rogers will be successful, but they added 53 transfers, but there's a significant drop-off with the majority of those transfers from the guys they're losing. I mean, and it starts obviously at the quarterback position. You go from Rocco Becht, who's an ascending first-round pick, potentially a quarterback, to Jalen Rayner, who needs to take a pretty significant step forward in order to be in the same conversation as Rocco Becht. I mean, the Iowa State lost first-team All-Big 12 and second-team All-Big 12 performers who were huge pillars of that program that was a top 25 program last year. So, I mean, you bring in Rayner from Arkansas State, Cody Jackson, a deep threat receiver out of Tarleton State, Masai King on the offensive line from Akron. I'm sure that they're going to have a roster of players that can play at this level, but it's at this point unproven. They've replaced Power 4 players for the most part with a group of 5 players. This is a much thinner, not as talented roster as last year.
Well, and what's interesting, so the On3 composite transfer portal ratings, which is their net rankings. I always look at the net rankings because I want to know what the value is on the guys that you lose in the portal. These are the 2 bottom feeders in the Big 12. Cincinnati's 15th, Iowa State is 16th in terms of portal retention versus departures, stars, ratings, stats, and everything that's bundled into that.
All right, the one thing that has to go right.
I highlight
hinge point.
Yeah, I highlight the quarterback, J.C. French. He's expected to be the starter, transfer from Georgia State. He has to be more than just a functional starter, and he has to do it right away. Now, the new co-offensive coordinator is a guy who helped develop Brendan Sorsby into one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Remember, Cincinnati led the Big 12 last season in touchdown throws. They were 9th nationally in yards per play. But why didn't they have more explosive plays? Especially when you have Jeff Caldwell, who's a freak of a human just in terms of his athleticism, and then Cyrus Allen. You had 2 NFL wide receivers. Why wasn't this team more explosive?
Great point.
To me, that's a bigger story, and J.C. French has to be better than just a game manager.
Yeah, the one thing that has to go right for Iowa State is their defense. Jesse Bobbitt, Jimmy Rogers, their background is in defensive football. They've had great defenses. I mean, last year, Bobbitt's defense finished 15th in the nation at Washington State and was excellent against the run. It's going to take time for Jalen Rayner, the offensive line, the wide receivers to all get on the same page. It's going to take time for the offense to mold and gel. It's all new. They need their defense to keep them in games. That is, without a doubt, the one thing that has to go right from the jump for Iowa State. What's the one thing that could derail them?
Well, I think the collapse pattern of the last 2 seasons could potentially become a mentality problem. And I know there's a lot of incoming players that weren't at Cincinnati last year, but 3 straight losses in 3 straight seasons, I should say.
In November, yeah.
This team in 2023 lost 8 of 9, too, to wrap the year. They lost their last 5 games in 2024 and their last 5 in 2025. And then also defensively, they have to have more takeaways. They only intercepted 2 passes all season last year. Going into the Liberty Bowl game against against Navy, their defense ranked 100th in the country in yards allowed per game. They were very bend but don't break, and they didn't have enough takeaways to swing momentum defensively in football games. So that's another red flag for me.
Yeah. The one thing that could derail Iowa State is the interceptions. Jalen Rayner has been an interception machine. He had 7 interceptions at Arkansas State his freshman year, 10 his sophomore year, and 11 last year. So he's throwing more interceptions every single year. Usually you're supposed to have those numbers be descending. Zane Flores in limited action with a very bad, untalented football team last year at Oklahoma State, 3 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So, what's derailing Iowa State is turn the ball over. This is a team that's going to win games by playing ball control and good defense. And if they turn the ball over like Rayner has in his career, that could completely derail them. All right, we're working towards consensus here on who number 16 is. I feel like I've got it at Iowa State. We'll have James continue to make his case as we continue on the pecking order. We make comparisons. We talk national perspective versus Big 12 reality. That's all next as we continue on the pecking order, ranking every Big 12 football team from 16 to 1 here on Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Scrambling, throws across his body, and it's intercepted! The senior, Lander Barton! Henderson in the pocket. Free runner coming. He's drilled Lander Barton right up the gut. Hammered him. Utah doing this against a good run defense the last couple of years. Flies in there to Lander Barton. All the defensive guys involved. Snowden and Barton both a touchdown. Blitz comes. Anderson's throw is knocked out. John Henry Daly got the ball out.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. It's the Pecking Order. We are powered by Modelo
You said
here.
that really fast.
Thank you.
I liked it.
Because I'm a thug. You know that.
Right.
Classic Trick Daddy song right there.
When I look at those sandals, I think that's a thug. When I see those khaki dad shorts, when you're rocking those board shorts,
There's nothing about these are fisherman shorts.
it's like
right?
maybe I am a thug.
They're Burrow Bro. I don't know if you know that.
They're what?
Burrow. It's
What?
a new brand.
Oh, it's a brand.
You wouldn't know.
Got it.
You wouldn't.
Board shorts is what I call them because
No,
they
these
look
are not-
like you're ready for the boardwalk.
No, these are fishing shirts. They've got great pocket. Never mind. Pecking Order. Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. You ever heard the song "I'm a Thug" by Trick Daddy? By the way,
I never heard of it.
yeah, it's a good one.
Good.
You just heard it right there.
Oh, just there.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
Classic.
That is a classic.
Right next to
They
Trick
don't make
Daddy's.
music like that anymore.
I agree.
What do you think the kids are going to be
I
talking
love me
about
some
20
Trick
years
Daddy.
from now when they're in their 40s? Miley Cyrus?
Yeah, no.
Demi Lovato? No.
I tell you who, we're going over the pecking order. James and I have independently come up with our rankings for the Big 12 teams preseason, 1 through 16. We'll work our way up, and today is number 16. I have Iowa State. He has Cincinnati at 16. So we just did kind of a recap of last year and what it looks like moving forward. Let's hit this second part of the pecking order where we go through, is this too high, too low, or exactly right for both of these teams?
Yeah, well, here's
Is
why.
it too high, James? Is 16 too high?
I don't think it's too high. Where I would lean into my argument for having 16, the 16th place team being Cincinnati, is 40 new players, none of them highly rated. Basically, entirely new starting units on both sides of the ball. Outside of the offensive line, which at Cincinnati will be the number one strength of their football team. You've got 2 potential All-Americans. But so many questions about the quarterback position, the running back position. Why did Cincinnati struggle to throw the football last season and have less explosive plays than other teams in this league when you've got 2 NFL wide receivers? Linebacker, you lose Jake Gaudet. They move a safety, Antoine Peak, to a new position at linebacker, and he's supposed to be your anchor. I don't see Jacob Rodriguez or Austin Romaine or Isaiah Glasker traits from that transition.
Yeah, and I mean, similarly with Iowa State, should they be higher? Probably not. Should they be lower? Well, you can't. Are they where they are, where they should be? Probably. Look, at the end of the day, you can't name a single returning starter, returning player, guy that's produced at this level. The guys will emerge. Don't get me wrong. Iowa State's going to have some dudes. But to this, right now, they have a bunch of unproven guys at this level. Everywhere. There's not one position where you're like, oh, that's settled because they brought in this guy from that school. And look, Jimmy Rogers just did it at Washington State, but that's Washington State. They're not in the they're in the Pac-12, but not the Pac-12 we used to know. It's not a power league, so it's totally different to do it at this league at this level. All right, what's
I just
next?
got the hiccups, which is not good for radio. I apologize.
No, there was a very pregnant pause there, so I figured I should help you out and jump in, but I didn't.
So, again, I have a tough time with pushback from your Iowa State pick because, spoiler alert, they're towards the bottom of my Big 12 conference rankings.
I figured, and Cincinnati is as well with mine.
Iowa State's one of only 2 teams in all of college football that does not return a single starter anywhere. Offense, defense, special teams. And the other team is North Texas because all of those guys are with Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. The only angle I could see for Cincinnati is their schedule. Their non-conference schedule is Boston College at home, and then Western Carolina at home, and then Miami, Ohio, which they're going to play at Paycor Stadium, also in Cincinnati. So essentially 3 home games that Cincinnati will be favored in each of and have to absolutely win. And then they get Colorado at home. But in Big 12 play, like Cincinnati at home, Nippert Stadium used to be this really hostile environment. Guys were going on the record saying it was the loudest stadium they'd ever played in, even though it only seats 30,000. It's super enclosed, and it's deafening. So why are they 6-8 at home in Big 12 play the last 3 seasons combined? They're less than 500 at home. that's another litmus test for Scott Satterfield if he's back next season. Home fans are tired of watching Cincinnati lose in their own backyard.
Who is Cincinnati clearly behind? Who are they clearly ahead of?
Well, I think they're clearly behind probably a dozen teams in the conference. The only other teams that I think would even enter that chat would maybe be UCF or Kansas or West Virginia or Iowa State. But there's not a team in the league that I can identify and say they are definitely going to be better than that team, even including Iowa State. To me, that's a coin flip.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for Iowa State, they're worse off than every team in the Big 12 with a returning starting quarterback. And I'm even going to count Oklahoma State there because even though he didn't start at Oklahoma State, he still started and played at a high level and is a proven commodity. So, I mean, you can start there and basically say, like, they're behind at least every team with a proven quarterback, that's back. And then who are they in front of? Man, I just – that's why I had them at 16.
Yeah.
I don't – like, for me, and I think consensus should be Iowa State, I'm not going to always push on my pick because I think there's legitimate arguments for both sides. The reason for Iowa State over Cincinnati for me, and the reason I have Cincinnati one spot higher in my rankings than Iowa State is because they do have some guys back, and they do have some coaches back. Their head coach is back. Like, these are all things that Iowa State can't say. Cincinnati has a really good offensive line. They've got Joe Cotton back. They've got Tarantayo back. There's some positives you could spin this out of. There's no positives to spin this with Iowa State.
Right. So when I compared the two programs, it came down to the guy on the sidelines. I believe in Jimmy Rogers. I think he's going to do more with less at Iowa State. Jalen Raynor is explosive. If he can rein him in and turn him into a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over, there's some things to work with there. Scott Satterfield is 46-40.
Yeah, that's a good point.
As a head football coach.
I agree. I think Jimmy Rogers is a better coach.
And the last 3 seasons are really alarming to me. You lose 8 out of 9 to end the year in 23. You lose your last 5 in back-to-back seasons in 2024 and 2025 when injuries were not the problem. Dante Corleone missed some time, but at the beginning of the year last year, all of your key pieces each of the last 2 years were healthy.
Well, and going into last season, the talk at media days was we didn't have receivers that could get open down the field, and so Sorsby didn't trust them, and so he counted more on his legs. Well,
last year you had 2 NFL receivers and an NFL tight end. And the guys replaced.
And it still happened.
And it still happened. And those guys that are coming in to replace them, Isaiah Johnson's going to be wide receiver number 1. He was their 4th guy last year. He was on this team. He caught 18 passes. Then they bring in a transfer from, I think, Western Carolina. The other transfer comes in from Oklahoma. He was healthy last year, played in 11 games, but only had 11 catches. I think that's a drop-off from Jeff Caldwell and Cyrus Allen.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, they're 2 NFL receivers. Those guys are not. We'll see. It could end up being it, but I'm not sure.
And then the other, the second layer to why I had Iowa State slightly higher is the Jack Trice at night effect of Jack Trice Stadium. Iowa State, even when they were having 5 and 6 win, like down years under Matt Campbell, they were still incredibly difficult to beat in Ames.
Oh, so you think Nippert Stadium's the worst stadium environment in the world? Is that what you're saying?
I don't understand how a team is 6-8 in Big 12 games at home over the last 3 seasons. I love Nippert Stadium. It's super cool. But Iowa State wins at home. And I think the weather plays a factor in that. Cincinnati's not quite as gnarly late in the year as Ames, Iowa. Teams get to Ames, and they're a shell of themselves. It happened to Arizona last year. And I look at Cincinnati and their home games. Bro, their home games are Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas State, and Colorado. So they only have 4 Big 12 home games to begin with, plus those 3 in the non-conference. They only actually play 6 games at Nippert Stadium. So Cincinnati, even with that home record, they've been worse on the road. And you've got to go to Arizona, you've got to go to Morgantown, you've got to go to Houston, you've got to go to BYU. And then if we're comparing Cincinnati and Iowa State side by side, the Cincinnati-Iowa State game in November is in Ames. So that's where I give them just the slightest of edge.
All right, what's the national perception versus Big 12 reality of Cincinnati?
I think the national perception of Cincinnati is that this was at one time a dominant Group of 5 program that really cracked the egg on a Group of 5 even being worth a mention in the college football playoff when they got in one year as a member of the AAC. And then they get to Big 12 play, and I think the perception is they just don't have the horses. So I don't know that the perception of Cincinnati is far from the reality as the nation sees this football team, because I think the nation sees Brendan Sorsby, the number one portal quarterback, is gone. There's going to be a huge drop-off. And I'm having a difficult time debunking that myth, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I mean, how many draft picks did Cincinnati just have? Golday, Royer, Cyrus Allen, Jeff Caldwell, Corleone. I don't know if he got drafted. I think he went undrafted.
But they had the second most in the league.
Yeah. So, I mean, talent is not the issue here. It's a great point. I think national perception of Iowa State it's probably pretty accurate in terms
rebuild.
of rebuild. People know that Matt Campbell's at Penn State, that he brought most of the players with him. They don't know much about Jimmy Rogers. So, to me, it's almost like the national perception. They're not entirely sure about how bad they're about to be Iowa State this year in a total rebuilding year. All right, what's the ceiling and the floor for Cincinnati?
Yeah, when I look at the Cincinnati schedule, the ceiling to me is them building some serious momentum, because they opened the season against Boston College at home. Boston College went 2-10 last year and had a bunch of exits. Western Carolina week 2, Miami, Ohio week 3. Cincinnati should be 3-0. And then their fourth game of the year, which could be a major trap game for Kansas State, is at home against Kansas State. After that, it's at Arizona in a bye week. So if you somehow steal one of those two, K-State or Arizona, you're 4-1. J.C. French is feeling confident, good about himself. The offensive line is still healthy. They batter teams in the trenches. But I think their ceiling, like best case scenario, is probably 8-4.
Yeah, and this is where I go back to why I think Iowa State should be the consensus at 16, because they've got a really tough schedule. The non-conference is Southwest Missouri State and Bowling Green. All right, those should be 2 wins. But then Iowa, and you're on a winning streak. That'll be tough. Utah, at BYU, at Arizona, and Kansas State to close out the year. That's as difficult of a schedule as there is the Big 12. And that's not, I didn't even mention Oklahoma State, at Baylor, which is always a tough one, and then the Cincinnati game as well. I'm not even, I think their ceiling is a bowl game, I guess. But I'm struggling to find 6 wins there. Southeast Missouri State, Bowling Green, West Virginia potentially. That's a home game. Cincinnati, at UCF. I'm not finding 6 wins on this schedule. I'm barely finding 4 Big 12 wins on this. I'm not. I would have found 6 wins if I found it. I'm barely finding 3 wins.
Well, and 4 Big 12 wins, I think, for Iowa State would be a tremendous year one.
Yeah.
For Jimmy Rogers.
Ceiling would be 4 wins, 6-6 at a bowl game. Find that to be extremely far-fetched, but it is the ceiling. What's the floor?
Yeah, the floor, to me, Cincinnati's floor is what they did just 3 years ago in 2023 when they went 3-9. They could start 3-0 in the non-conference and lose every other game. They open league play at home against a very dangerous Kansas State team. Then they travel out to the desert to play Arizona 2 time zones away. And then after their bye, they're at West Virginia. That's a huge swing game. And then at home against Texas Tech and Utah, you look at that gauntlet, and even if you steal one of those two, let's say they upset Utah on a Halloween Saturday, by that point in time, that's probably best case scenario, your second Big 12 win. So to me, is a winless Big 12 slate. And based off of their schedule, their home and road splits, 4 at home, 5 on the road, I can see it.
Yeah, say Iowa State, I'd say 3 wins is probably the floor. 2 non-conference wins that should be there in Southeast Missouri State and Bowling Green, and then 1 Big 12 game. Can you get 1 Big 12 win here? That I think is their floor. All right, final defense here. Give me your final defense.
Well, I think my final defense for Cincinnati being dead last, I would start at the quarterback position. You have the number 1 transfer portal player in the country gone, and you replace him with a guy that threw double-digit interceptions at Georgia State. And then defensively, I have major concerns. Tyson Veit, that 3-3-5 defensive scheme that's just a headache for a lot of programs, that's out the door. You bring in a defensive coordinator who's old school from Army. It's going to be very different schematically. Your best defensive player is a safety that you're moving to linebacker. that's got alarm bells going off in my head.
Yeah, and we officially see the death of the 3-3-5 of the Big 12. A lot of teams started to run it, and now Iowa State with John Haycock, who invented it, are different. Jimmy Rogers will run a completely different defense, and so too will Cincinnati. I actually like Nate Woody. I think that's a major positive for them. For me, and I buy the argument that I would take Rogers over Satterfield, but for me, they lost every starter on both sides of the ball, including their quarterback, their best corners, their best receivers. I mean, they are less prepared for the start of the season than arguably any team in all of college football. I think Jimmy Rogers and this Iowa State program are on an upward trajectory, but it starts with rock bottom here, year one for Rogers. Guys are going to emerge. We're going to see the blueprint, if you will, the makings of a successful Iowa State team into 2027 and 2028, but they're going to take their lumps in 2026. I genuinely cannot find more than 2 Big 12 wins in their schedule. I think 4-8 is what they're probably going to end up, and it's the reason I've got them at 16.
Well, and like with Iowa State, I think it's more the expectation is a total reset, because first-year head coaches in this conference, they struggle.
Great point.
Willie Fritz won 4 games. Scott Frost won 4 games. Some guys that broke through in year 2, like Brent Brennan, also only won 4 games in year 1. And so that argument I definitely buy. In terms of coaches that have been at a school 4 or 5 years and kind of have this collapse, could see it from Dave Aranda at Baylor. We saw it a little bit last year where they only win 5 games and they were a sexy pick to win the conference. And Cincinnati is the team that there's a couple of others that I think are candidates, but just the amount of talent that they lost, the guys they brought in. I think from a numbers standpoint, Iowa State is a no-brainer in terms of portal losses, right, in the conference. And maybe even the entire country, because, again, they're only one of 2 teams that don't have a single starter. The other thing about Iowa State that I agree with you on is, they lose maybe their top member of their secondary preseason to a torn ACL. Brendan Alls is not going to play this year. He was an all-MAC performer at Toledo. That's another gut.
He was like the best ad they had. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so what's the consensus here?
We'd have to ask our judge, wouldn't we?
Okay. Judge is Taman is the judge?
I'm the judge. All right.
Did you even know that, Taman?
No, I just got granted the authority to be the judge. So
well, I had to recuse myself because I'm a Kansas State alum.
Good point.
Reckon I can't do it.
Well, fair. All right. Well, I
remember, it's only right for Judge Taman if he agrees with me.
Right. So no pressure there, Taman.
No pressure whatsoever. I mean, look, I'm going to put my trust into.
I don't know if you know this. Both of my kids are going to Cincinnati, so we're writing.
I have a cousin at Cincinnati.
Oh, he's got a cousin.
Yeah.
He's got a cousin at Cincinnati.
That is true. Should I recuse myself or? No, I think number 16 is going to be Cincinnati.
Oh! This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I think it's
55 new players.
I trust Jimmy Rogers.
It's because his cousin went to Cincinnati.
It's Jimmy Rogers' neighborhood, land of make-believe. No? Okay. All right, Cincinnati officially number 16 on our pecking order.
So, Taman, you've got to keep this tally going, okay?
I have it written down.
Right, Fast Fingers is going to work over there.
Yep.
On the way next, Scott Springer from Cincinnati Enquirer joins us. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio.
Latrell McCutcheon is a bad dude.
And McCutcheon absolutely changes this ball game.
Levitt thought about taking a shot. Instead, he takes his shot from Latrell McCutcheon. And McCutcheon with bad intentions on that hit on Levitt.
Mack, the second, is playing that defensive end spot. And Buren crushed on the corner blitz. There's Latrell McCutcheon, senior. First sack of the season, and it was a loud one.
Out of an empty set. Murphy finds Wells, can't hold on. And they rule that incomplete. Latrell McCutcheon, who Willie Fritz believes is an NFL player with the PBU.
Well, he is some player, not afraid to make tackles either.
High snap. Welch wrestled down the backfield. That's Latrell McCutcheon,
a willing tackler. You know, he's He's a guy he only goes about 185 pounds at 6'1".
Another bad snap and exchange, and McClanahan has to run for it. He lost his hat. McCutcheon absolutely changes this ball game.
That's 126 nationally. Awful. Quick toss. Man. Gets popped. The ball is out, and it's out of bounds. Two leaping Cougars defenders, and Latrell McCutcheon and Sione Fotu.
Pretty good. Just getting through summer here.
I have to ask you, as a Cincinnati guy, how you feel about Sorsby?
I got along with him, but I didn't know any of this at all. And yeah, based on that mountain of evidence, I don't know how. I'm old enough to have covered Pete Rose and his gambling scandal and all that, and when you bet on your own team, that's just that's it. So I don't have any issue with him going in the supplemental draft and all that, but I don't know. I mean, whatever they do, it doesn't make sense. It's like if this is where we're at, if you can constantly find a lawyer and a judge that gets things your way, then
what's the point of having rules?
There's no justice for anyone. So, and they've got all the money in the world to do what they want, and they flaunt it and pretty much say that, and you can't do anything about it. I mean, I think they're good without him. Either way. And honestly, he was good. He's not $5 million good.
Fair. The November win prove that. Back on that.
0-8.
Yeah.
I mean, they folded the last two seasons, and he was the guy.
Yeah.
And
it makes you wonder.
Well, I mean, what people initially wondered was, okay, that explains, two very curious turnovers against West Virginia a couple years ago. There was, I think, the Arizona this year, the first play, pick six. No, I don't really think that happened.
No, you can't help but think, yeah.
But you go back and you look at some of those puzzling highlights, and you're going, it makes you wonder.
Right.
He's going to have that the rest of his career.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to wonder. I mean, he's got baggage. Yeah, and I'm not. I've got four sons. Kids do stupid things.
Yeah. No.
Sometimes you got to go to court with them and figure out a way and all that. But in this case, it's like, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read a lot of legal briefs here, and I just don't see how you let him in. But
right. Real quick, sorry to cut you off. We have 20 seconds. I'm going to bring the guys in.
All right.
This is a different league.
I'm Coach Satterfield, and I coach at Cincinnati. You're listening to Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn.
Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Your home for interviews, analysis, and all things Big 12. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn.
I'm doing an interview. Call your mom.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. Super surprised anytime we come back from break. You know that. Just caught me off guard. Oh, hey, I didn't see you walk in. With James Westling, I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Let's talk with Cincinnati Enquirer writer Scott Springer, friend of the program, joining us here on Big 12 Radio about the Bearcats. Scott, how are you?
Good. I've got my Big 12 mug of coffee ready.
Let's go. All right.
One of the better swag items they've given us, I think.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
We obviously have to ask you about Brendan Sorsby because based on my information, he was the quarterback at Cincinnati last year.
That's what I hear.
Yeah. Wild. But let's start with what we had John for today, which is the pecking order. James and I have independently come up with our own top 16 of the Big 12, and we are starting number 16, where James ranked Cincinnati 16. I had Iowa State, but we went back and forth and have decided that the consensus between the show is Cincinnati at 16. Is that too low?
Well, it's pretty low. I don't know. Here's the deal. I don't really know how anyone knows because 46 new players, new quarterback, new receivers. You've got returning offensive linemen. You're going to have a new tight end. You got pretty much a new defense and a new defensive coordinator and new offensive coordinators. So a lot of new, and everyone flips their rosters anymore, and so it's tough to keep up with. Is anyone any good? Because last year I saw Cincinnati, and I thought, well, these receivers that they got are pretty good, but we didn't really know who they were then. And Cyrus Allen turns out to be a fifth-round draft pick for the Chiefs, and Jeff Caldwell, they pick him out of Lindenwood, and he's with the Chiefs free agent deal. And that they've been able to find diamonds in the rough over the years that have been okay. Jake Golday comes from Central Arkansas, not really a school you think of for football, and he turns into a second-round draft pick of the Vikings. So if these guys that I'm seeing, that I've seen in the spring, are like that, then maybe they're better than people think. But yeah, based on what you see and what they've done in the last 2 years, where they've kind of folded down the stretch, I don't think it would surprise anyone that Cincinnati's rated low. On the other hand, if you go back in the history of Big 12 media rankings, they're not very solid. A couple of years ago, I think Arizona State was ranked dead last and made the college football playoffs. So you just don't know, and I'm not making fun of your ranking. I'm sure there's very valid statistical reasons, but I don't know how anyone knows. And Satterfield has said the same thing. But what's he supposed to say? But historically, the teams that have been right near the bottom have turned out to be a little bit better than people think.
So tell us about the new coaches. Is Scott Satterfield going to be calling the plays for the offense? And then just how different is this defense going to look under Nate Woody?
I think he's always going to call the plays. So it's a nice promotion and title to have, and maybe some more money. But it's Pete Thomas, quarterback coach, is co-offensive coordinator with Nick Cardwell, the offensive line coach. So I don't think that they're going to be calling plays. They're going to have input, but Scott has always called the plays. I don't know that I agree with that. I don't think that Scott cares what I agree with, but I have an issue with coaches calling all the plays because I think that takes them away from other things. To me, you get a good offensive coordinator and let them do their stuff. But this is the way he's always rolled, so it's not going to change. Defensive coordinator Nate Woody is a guy that's been with him before at Appalachian State. That he's going to change the defense. It's not going to be the 3-3-5, which a lot of times was just sending 8 guys back and then watching it get picked apart and then gaping holes to run in. I was sitting at the TCU game in Fort Worth late in the game, and they're down by the end zone, and it's not rocket science. I'm looking, I'm going, why wouldn't they just run through the Red Sea there, this big hole that I see from the press box? And so I didn't understand the defense. That's why I write, and I'm not a defensive coordinator, I guess. But I think this defense is going to be better. It's going to be focused on attacking. They want more turnovers. They only had 2 interceptions last year. They want more sacks. It's tough to get sacks when you're only rushing 3. I think they've gone out and gotten some guys out of different schools that can maybe come up at this level and play, and they look pretty good. But again, what am I seeing? I'm seeing Cincinnati versus Cincinnati. So until I see Cincinnati versus BC and some other teams, I'm not going to really know until late September.
Yeah, great point. Curious for your hypothesis or rationale behind these November collapses. And is it what you mentioned? And I agree on the Tyson Veit thing. I think Scott Satterfield made the wrong decision in buying too much into a Big 12 trend, and probably should have stuck with a Nate Woody type traditional DC as we've, as he's had in the past. Is it defense? Is that the reason for these November collapses the last 2 years? Is it Sorsby? What's your hypothesis on what's gone wrong for them in November?
It was a little of both, and last year the disheartening thing was you go into Utah and you're 7-1, you've got game day and it's a big atmosphere, and Utah is definitely tough to play for anyone, but you're thinking you can go in there and compete. and you kind of got ran out of the stadium, and it's a tough atmosphere. And at that time, there was Sorsby talk for the Heisman even, and he hit on a couple plays in that game. But then the back half of their schedule was difficult. You had Arizona, BYU in there, and TCU, and so some of it was the schedule, but it was two seasons in a row where you had a 5-2 start in 24, and then you lost the rest of them, and a 7-1 start last season, and you lost the rest of them. So that's not sitting well with the fan base, even though incrementally you've done better 3 to 5 to 7 wins. I think people need to see a little bit more. I don't know if this is the year they're going to see it based on all the new faces and things like that. But yeah, it's got to be a little of both. But yeah, defensively, you just saw some lapses. Sorsby, the first play against Arizona, which was a game you really needed to win, and he throws a pick six. Um, there's those that might speculate now on why that pick six happened because just the nature of the charges and things against him, and he's going to have that the rest of his life. But that was a game they needed to win, and Noah Fafita just carved him up. He carved that 3-3-5 right up. It didn't make any difference to him. So, and that's they've got to go play them again. Their first road game is October 2nd in Tucson. So, tough deal. But yeah, but back to the November collapses and all the money that Brendan's gotten. And again, I like him, but I've told everyone he has as many wins as you and I have in November, which is 0.
Yeah, Scott, from what you saw from him as a player, were you surprised that he got this much attention in the portal as the number one portal quarterback on the market?
Well, he's got the raw skills. He's 6'3", 235. He does like to run. He really doesn't like to slide. He would just soon hit you head on. So he's a tough football player, carries some swagger with him. I always liked talking to him. He was very friendly and always answered questions after losses, after wins, whenever. But yeah, I saw the games. I saw the Nebraska game. That's a 69-yard passing effort. I don't really understand how that wows anyone. And that game ends with an interception in the end zone when all you really needed was a field goal. So was that a good decision there? I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things that I've heard is he could make big plays, but sometimes he would go for the big plays a little bit too much, where they think J.C. French, the guy from Georgia Southern. Now, I don't know how he's going to be because Georgia Southern to Cincinnati in the Big 12, two different things. But he looked good during the spring. He ran a little bit. And I think they like the way he just keeps moving the sticks rather than going for broke. Sorsby, for lack of a better term, kind of the gambler in those ways offensively. But yeah, I saw some of the games, and he could be brilliant, and he could be not so hot. So $5 million good? No, I'm thinking I can get 2 quarterbacks for that.
All right. So what's in your opinion? And I don't know if you've done this officially yet, but how many wins do you think Cincinnati has in the schedule? What's your best guess in terms of what their record will be?
I've glanced at it. I'm going to have to write something here at some point, but I don't know. I'm seeing more 6 to 7 in that range. I don't see a breakout year at all. It could dip to 5, and that could be trouble. I think for Satterfield to hang, it's probably got to be at minimum 6 to 7 and another bowl opportunity. But what are the bowls anymore? It's last year you were excited about making a bowl, but then everybody opts out, and then second, third string quarterback throwing to the walk-on receiver, and everybody's supposed to get excited about that, and you don't get a real game. You got to go play Navy, who has no opt-outs, and they run all over you at Memphis. So yeah, I think fans are hungry to see more. I don't know if they can get it because just the way the system is and the way you've had to flip the roster and the money issues. Cincinnati doesn't have, I said this before, Jed Clampett's not around the corner hitting oil and bringing in a bunch of money here.
Yeah, well said.
So you think 6 or 7 wins and Satterfield is back next season?
I can't guarantee that. I would think that might keep him safe. They might, based on buyouts and financials and things like that, that might keep him. I think they like the way the program's run. I think they like Zach Grant, the general manager, and the way they've assembled personnel and things like that. Um, so I don't know. I'll know a lot more in October, November, when you get a gauge on everything. Because, with Wes Miller in basketball, you kind of had a feeling this is not going to end well. Because during the season, he was hovering around 500. He made a run, makes another run. He's in the Big 12 tournament, but then a minute and a half implosion in the tournament game against UCF, and he knew this is not going to end well. So that's gone well. Jared Calhoun, I know you didn't call me about basketball, but everyone's going crazy about Jared Calhoun here because of the Bob Huggins connections. And Huggins is going to the Hall of Fame. That was announced yesterday, the UC Hall of Fame. And the funny thing, the induction ceremony will be the night before the Texas Tech homecoming game, October 24th. The great Sorsby Bowl.
Wow, that'll be amazing.
Assuming Brendan's in uniform for the Red Raiders that night.
Yeah. Scott Springer does a great job covering the Bearcats for the Cincinnati Enquirer. Scott, thanks for your time as always, man. Be well.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Scott Springer joining us here, giving us his insights onto UC, Cincinnati. So we now have two teams in. We made both the arguments for Iowa State and Cincinnati to be at 16. The consensus is Cincinnati at 16, which means Iowa State at 15. So we will pick it back up on Monday with number 14 on our list in the pecking order. So Iowa State locked it at 16. Sorry, Cincinnati locked it at 16, and our consensus is Iowa State at 15. You had Cincinnati at 16 and Iowa State at 15. I had Cincinnati at 15 and Iowa State at 16. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Let's Get It On is next.
Whittington is tackled for a loss immediately by the first team All Big 12, Lee Hunter. Hopefully in motion, it's a handoff for Jackson. He is wrangled almost immediately by Lee Hunter.
You don't see very many 330-pound guys that can move like Lee Hunter right here.
These ends get so much credit, and deservedly so. Time running out again, and Peters is sacked.
Slow motion for me.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. A reminder that on TuneIn, content is just getting rolling. You can always listen to Big 12 Radio, pop in at any time, and find content specific to the Big 12, including our series, The Road to Arlington. If you missed our Road to Arlington, Oklahoma State, or if you heard it, you want to hear it again, 1 o'clock Central today. We've got our Big 12 Power Hour with Dave Aranda, Kenny Dillingham, and Willie Fritz interviews at 2 o'clock. We got those interviews at the spring meetings. I promise you'll not want to miss any of those 3 interviews. And then the pecking order, we will replay our pecking order from today, number 16, which we decided on as Cincinnati, but I argue for Iowa State. That's at 3 o'clock Central, all part of Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, where the Big 12 is always on. All right, let's get it on. A segment where we argue one side or the other, depending on which one of us has first crack at it. Taman Turner, T-Chains, is our producer, and he is the host of this segment. Let's get it on.
Let's get it on!
Thank you, Mills.
All right, fellas, let's get it on. So I was thinking about this because, to Ari's credit, Ari has said that Brendan Sorsby is going to play this season. He said that from the get-go, pretty much. So it had me thinking, with all this going on, my first question is, will Brendan Sorsby miss more than 2 games due to this gambling scandal because of the new news that has come out since Monday?
So this is a bold prediction, I would say, one way or the other, because of the firestorm surrounding this. You want me to go first?
Yeah, ladies first.
Let's get it on!
Classic
all right.
dad joke.
So
Classic dad joke.
The question is he going to miss more than 2 games? I say yes. And it's not because the Big 12 and their threats, or the College Football Playoff Committee, which is not managed by the NCAA. They are their own entity and can essentially do what they want. At some point, I believe Texas Tech and Brendan Sorsby are going to kind of see the light in terms of, is it more beneficial for Texas Tech to have him on the field versus have him off the field? So ultimately, if I'm looking into a crystal ball 2-3 months from now, I think Brendan Sorsby has dropped the injunction voluntarily, and I think he has walked away. I think that...
Wow. So your bold prediction here is that Sorsby will not play a single game.
Yes.
Let's get it on!
Yes. I believe Brendan Sorsby is going to sit out. Be the ultimate teammate. Practice with, mentor Will Hammond to be the best quarterback that he can be. Prepare for the 2027
Have you been
NFL
paying
draft.
attention?
It's a bold take.
And not only that, but
bold
like
take.
you're basically expecting Brendan Sorsby to become something he's never been.
The pressure from... Go ahead, T.
Why go through all of this just to do that?
All of this has only really transpired for the last 72 hours. All of this, going through the court
Yeah, but it's a
process,
lot.
building your case, it's a lot. It's a lot. But ultimately, at some point, there will be more value for Brendan Sorsby as an individual and his future chance to play in the NFL. It will be more of a benefit for Texas Tech. I'm not talking about, is it a benefit for the integrity of the sport or the Big 12. Those 2 pieces are the 2 pieces I'm looking at. And ultimately, that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to come off of, my opinion on this from a month or so ago when it all started to come out, when I said that I think Sorsby's going to play this year. It's played out exactly as I thought it would. So, no, I'm not going to come off of that now. I mean, at this point, a court has ordered an injunction that allows him to play this season 10 of the 12 games. That's a legal precedent that has been set. Anything else is just rules and noise. Unless he's arrested for a crime.
Let's get it on!
And to this point, no crime has been committed. No charges have been levied. Nothing there. So he is going to miss 2 games. And it seems like from the dialogue we've heard from Tech, they're about to lawyer up in order to see that through. Let's get it on.
And I would say, yes, that he'll miss more than 2 games, even if my bold prediction doesn't come to fruition, because Texas Tech has not indicated that he's even going to be ready by game number 3. So I could see Texas Tech sitting him for 1 or 2 more games to get him prepared for what he's going to face anytime they go on the road. The scrutiny that he's going to be under every time he throws an incompletion or an interception or has a misread on a check down. Because that's what they have to prepare him for next, if in fact that is the route and the path that they're taking.
All right. Well, you guys won't believe what my next segment is about. It's definitely not Brendan Sorsby, but it definitely is Brendan Sorsby. So my next question is Texas Tech a national contender, a national championship contender, if Brendan Sorsby doesn't play this season?
Is Texas Tech a national championship contender if Sorsby doesn't play? No. I'm also not convinced they're a national title contender with Brendan Sorsby. Yeah, this is a lot. This is not nothing here. These games aren't being played in a vacuum. If people want to disregard the human element of this, do that at your own peril here. But, I'll tell you right now, I don't have Texas Tech winning the Big 12 in my pecking order. I do not have Texas Tech number 1. They have a lot of talent. They're a very good football team. This is going to be way too much for them this year. Whether he plays or not, way too much. So no, they're not a national championship contender with him. They're not a national championship contender without him. I mean, we thought they were national championship contenders last year, and they weren't really. They no-showed in the playoff and looked like an offense that wasn't capable of doing anything. So have they done enough to offset what happened last year? No. They're not better defensively. I don't care what they say. They're not going to be better defensively. And though their quarterback situation is better, the situation around the quarterback is not better. It's way worse. Way worse.
No other team, maybe in the history of college football, will have a larger target on their back than Texas Tech. And that's regardless of if he plays or if he doesn't play. So if I'm making the case that, yes, they're a national championship contender, let me introduce you to myself. And my name is James Blanchard, the general manager at Texas Tech, who all he does is identify NFL talent. All of the transfers last year at Texas Tech leveled up. They played above their projection, above their stats, and everything they did at their previous stop. And their portal class this year is better than last year's class from every outlet on the planet. Will Hammond develops into an all Big 12 caliber quarterback. He's already the highest rated quarterback they've ever had in the program, higher rated out of high school than Patrick Mahomes. And if it is Sorsby, he uses this as fuel for a Heisman-type season. And the defense is even better than it was last season because people are sleeping on Austin Romaine. He was the highest rated linebacker in this conference 2 years ago. The last year that he was healthy, rated higher than Jacob Rodriguez, who blossomed into a star. And then with John Curry, who we learned yesterday from Chris Level, is probably their number one NFL guy from that position group. That's the path, the talent, the pedigree, and the schedule. They don't play Kansas State. They don't play BYU. Nobody takes down Texas Tech. They run the table. They get to the Big 12 championship game. They're in the college football playoff. And that would make them a national championship contender.
I have to say, I agree with Ari. I think this is going to be too much for Texas Tech to overcome.
T-Bones.
I'm just saying. I just think Texas Tech, this is going to be too much for them to overcome.
Well, here's the thing, James. I'm about to win the next argument. You're going to have the first crack at it.
Oh, oof, look at this guy.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah, I need some aloe vera for that burn.
Shouldn't have laughed at that.
No, you shouldn't have.
I don't think any of us should. All right, next one. All right, yes or no, a team outside of Texas Tech and BYU will play in the Big 12 championship. James, you are going first.
No! It's Texas Tech and BYU. The only losses between these two teams last season was one game at Arizona State. Will Hammond was beat up. He was a shell of himself. Every other loss between the two were to each other. And they don't play in the regular season. Now, BYU, there's very much a case that they could be the most talented, deepest team in this league. But Texas Tech, they're going to eclipse their program record-setting number of 9 NFL draft picks this past NFL draft. With the accumulation of talent on both sides of the ball, the depth. You could throw Kirk Francis in at quarterback. You could have Artie chucking 30 yards down the field for Texas Tech. And the elite wide receivers that they brought in are catching those passes. So schedule-wise, nobody's beating those teams in Lubbock or in Provo. That's the matchup in Arlington.
Since the Big 12 title game has been held, the only team to appear in the Big 12 title game multiple times, well, there's a couple. Oklahoma is one of them. Oklahoma State is another. And they did it, with a year in between, so they did not go back-to-back. And that's it. Baylor, also. That's it.
History schmistery.
2025, Texas Tech, BYU. 2024, Arizona State, Iowa State. 2023, Texas, Oklahoma State. You seeing a pattern here?
No.
So the answer is clearly yes. There will be another team in the Big 12 title. Will it be Utah? Will it be Houston? Will it be Arizona? Will it be Arizona State? Will it be a new team? Will it be Kansas State? Where's your confidence in your Kansas State Wildcats, James? Why do you hate K-State so much, and why do you think K-State's going to be horrible this year?
I never said that.
Clearly the answer is yes. I get it. Heading into the season, we probably would have said Arizona State and Iowa State will repeat in the Big 12 championship game last year.
Actually, nobody said that.
And we were dead wrong.
I didn't hear it from anybody.
So, yeah, the answer clearly is yes. There will be another team.
Everybody said Arizona State and Iowa State would repeat in the Big 12. That is the most out-my-ass statement I've ever heard of my life.
Why do you hate K-State so much, James? Why don't you answer the questions? When you're about to lose an argument, you got to pull a weird one out of your hat.
That was a good one. I like that.
So the answer clearly is yes.
Clearly.
Thank you, Taman. I clearly won that argument. We can move on to the next one.
Just keep moving.
Clearly. All right, next one. All right, we're getting away from football because I don't know if you guys remember, but West Virginia is playing in the College World Series.
Oh, I remember.
And we believe that West Virginia is going to take that country road to Omaha and take that championship trophy back to Morgantown. So with that said, who has the better chance of being the College World Series most outstanding player? Is it Gavin Kelly or is it Max Yale?
You got the lead on this one.
I do, and it's Max Yale. And that is because, though Kelly is phenomenal, Yale is going to be asked to pitch in multiple scenarios and multiple times this trip to Omaha, and that's been the calling card of West Virginia all year. So if West Virginia is going to get far and going to win this thing, it's going to be based on the strength of the pitching and pitching at the top. Like, if they're in a championship game situation, Max Yale will be on the mound, and I think he's done so well this year that I have faith that he'll close it out and then end up winning that award.
Let's get it on!
Why do you hate Ken Griffey Jr. so much? Because that's who Gavin Kelly is. We're talking about a sophomore who can play multiple positions. He's 20 years old. He's got that chip on his shoulder. But more than that, the guy hit like over 400. Was the Super Regionals MOP.
I must have missed
Top
when
duty.
Ken
Most
Griffey.
outstanding player.
I must have missed when Ken Griffey played catcher.
Yeah,
all
he
those
was
years.
a pretty good catcher. Salvador Perez maybe would have been a more accurate comp, but we're going Ken Griffey, okay? 384 average, 21 doubles, 17 dingers, 57 RBI. First team all Big 12. Pitchers don't win in the College World Series. Batters do, Ari. Guys with the sticks, okay? That's what the experts say. 26, you can put him anywhere you want. 26 games at catcher, 20 games at second base. This is positionless baseball, and Gavin Kelly's about to be at the forefront of this revolution of the sport by sweeping the nation and MVP honors.
Gavin Kelly can hit 500 in Omaha. If Max Yale gets the win in a shutout to close out the World Series, he's getting it, baby.
500, why not 1,000?
Why not?
That's what I bet on these takes.
Oh my gosh!
Couldn't even say it with his.
I was about to say I agree with everything that James said, but then you came up with that terrible joke.
Typical.
So I'm going with Ari.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Winner, chicken dinner. We have any others?
Someone's mad.
Oh, haymaker you right between the teeth.
All right. Last topic. Okay. West Virginia will win the Rocco's Jello Shot Challenge. Yes or no?
This is a good one. So the Rocco's Pizza and Cantina sits right across the street from Charles Schwab Field in Omaha, and they for years have hosted the Jello Shot Challenge, where fans of teams buy Jello shots, and then the winner is whoever buys the most Jello shots. And it's gotten wild. We're talking like tens of thousands of Jello shots. So will West Virginia win?
Taman, have you ever been to Morgantown?
No, I've been to West Virginia, but
This
not
question wouldn't even be on the rundown because it's an obvious yes. We're talking about 135 years in the making. They've got one of the most passionate, rowdy, heaviest drinking fan bases in the country, and they've got a reason to celebrate. And first-timers at Rocco's, they show up. Coastal Carolina, their first appearance in the College World Series, they were shattering records. West Virginia's about to make whatever the number is look like chump change. They're going to crush this, obliterate it. Pat McAfee might do it himself.
You hear that, West Virginia? He thinks you guys as fans are unsophisticated Jello shot drinkers. No, not the West Virginia fans I know. They're drinking Modelo. They're high society drinkers here, okay? They're not just coughing down Jello shots because some pizza and cantina asked them to.
Pinky out.
Yeah, that's right. No. That's LSU does that, okay? We'll leave the Jello shots to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where they reach into ponds to catch catfish with their bare hands, okay? We'll leave the Jello shots to them. By the way, LSU set the record with 70,000.
70,000 is the number?
70,000. Remember, the CEO of Raising Cane's made a huge donation in that to help them get there. So West Virginia's going to need Pat McAfee to make a sizable donation. But no, McAfee's going to be pounding Modelo's with the sophisticated West Virginia drinkers, not these Jello shot hooligans. No. Clearly a no. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. I don't even need Tammy to tell me that I won that one. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Malachi Lawrence ends that drive for K-State.
He is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2.
Third down and long. Trouble on the edge. And they go back to back. This one belongs to Malachi Lawrence.
Johnson on a 4th and 6. Scans. Backpedaling. Going the opposite way. Now he throws around the edge. In pursuit. UCF gets to him. Malachi Lawrence, one of their 2 vaunted pass rushers on the edge, ends that drive for K-State.
He's got our antennas up. And the antenna goes down. Malachi Lawrence again. This time, his first sack of the season.
That's just absolute force right there by Malachi Lawrence.
Discipline if you're UCF. Here's Pryor, and he is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2, and
One more play before the quarter break. Fox leaves the pocket to the numbers and track down. Malachi Lawrence finishes 3 here in Orlando with his UCF 9th.
We're here at the Big 12's annual spring meetings at the Omni PGA in Frisco, visiting with Doug McNamee, the athletic director at Baylor. How long have you been on the job now?
6 months in.
6 months in. Is it like anything you've done before?
I had an experience with college athletics, before I left for the private sector for the last 8 years. The best probably comparison I can make in terms of the change and the volatility, shall we say, of the industry was my previous life. We had manufacturing relationships overseas in the tariff environment of the last 12 months before I departed. It was obviously pretty well documented as a rapidly changing environment. I would say just the speed of which things are changing in this space is probably the best comparison I can make.
That's really interesting. I would have never thought about that, but I totally see that. So where do you come from? Like, you went to Baylor. You're from the Houston area originally,
right? South Houston, Lake Jackson.
You worked for Chip and Joanna. Who else have you worked for? Like, I'm so interested in your resume.
Yeah, so I worked. I started my career with ISP, which became part of the MMR space, became IMG, that ultimately moved to Bill Airfield. So my first years in college athletics were learning to sell on the multimedia rights side, which was such a valuable experience. But then I moved into college athletics for 5 years after that on fundraising, external side of the equation, and then just had a chance to exit to go do what I thought was a once in a lifetime opportunity and lead this, growing company in Waco that at the time was 700 plus employees and 100 plus million in revenue. And so had this amazing chance, and it was probably the only reason I would have left college athletics. Genuinely was, it was pretty clear in my objective and my goal to hopefully at one point become an athletic director, and just had a chance to lead that company, which was an amazing journey. Did so for 5 years. And then the last 3 years, wanted to kind of follow that same, I would say, content to commerce model that Magnolia, became so synonymous with, and got a group of folks together that invested and bought the Old Field and Stream media platform, and in many ways have replicated what we did at Magnolia. And that was an amazing journey and hard to obviously leave, but the opportunity to come back to Baylor was a once in a lifetime chance.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that what you call it, content to
Commerce.
It feels in many ways like that's similar in terms of the dynamic here, and it's just more like figuring out all of the commercial opportunities that exist that maybe weren't exploited to the fullest extent that they were previously.
No doubt. I mean, we're in the content game. You know, in college athletics, we're in the content game. It's what drives the revenues for us, those media relationships, and looking for ways to create new assets of value from a content perspective. I think we're all challenged to do that. Certainly something we're looking at Baylor.
Do you think that just the position of athletic director has changed in terms of just the experience, the knowledge that it takes to do the job? Do you think that it's evolved?
Yeah, I think the pressures for revenue has certainly has transformed the role in the past. A lot of the revenue aspects of the department you could outsource and kind of get a fixed number and ultimately plug that into your budget and be set. And now with the pressures of revenue, you've got to look through a whole different lens, and you got to look through different paths to go find money that potentially you just didn't have to seek out before. So I think that entrepreneurial revenue focused mindset is just a mandate moving forward.
So what's kind of first priorities for you? When you took this job and you started in it, what did you first want to do, and then kind of lay out the next few months and full year for you as you see?
Yeah, I listen for sure. I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to understand just in terms of the current state of college athletics and where we are as an institution. For me, as someone that had this rare experience where I attended the last Baylor football game this year as a fan with my two daughters, and parked in the regular parking and walked across the bridge, and then three weeks later I was the AD. That's a pretty unique juxtaposition of being a consumer flipped into the oversight of the product, in the span of a couple weeks. And so, I'll spend a lot of time and have spent a lot of time just focusing on what does that fan experience look like. I think to some degree, fans have been somewhat neglected and left out of the conversation of all the discussion on NIL and where college athletics is. I think we need to be grounded and reminded that we're all here because our fans love and support us. And so let's prioritize them, put them back at the forefront, think through the lens of what makes the fan experience great. And, for us, we're going to play the long game where we'll probably, sacrifice some short-term dollars in revenue in exchange to build long-term relationships that we think will be meaningful and beneficial for us as a university and athletic department for the foreseeable future. So I really zeroing in on the fan experience and having summer to get ready for obviously what we hope to be a very important and successful 26 football season.
I want to just emphasize. So what you're saying is basically like there are probably assets, areas, revenue streams that you could tap into that you don't want to because you want to maximize the fan experience.
For sure. I mean, we've done a different strategy as it relates to tailgating. I really feel like tailgating is the chance, kind of the gateway for college athletic departments to connect with a fan base that sees that as kind of a front door and experience to come in on a Saturday and have a good time. And so I think we made some changes to hopefully make that an affordable, accessible space. Concessions is another thing. I think it's been long talked about as like the master's concession pricing, where our goal is to get people in the stadium and then not use that kind of as a bait and switch, and then they have to pull out their wallet and mortgage their house to be able to afford four hot dogs and a drink. We want to get them there, make it affordable to get them there, but then obviously feed them and give them a good time when they're there, because we feel like that long-term commitment for them to buy season tickets, for them to donate to our annual fund, to consider NIL support. We think that's far more of the opportunity, and that may not manifest itself immediately, but if we do it right, you build those deep relationships that'll come to fruition.
Obviously, football drives the bus, but Baylor's had a lot of success in women's basketball, has had a lot of success in baseball. What are from a sports standpoint, what are your priorities? Maybe priority is not the right way to put it, but how do you look across the entire athletic department to make the right investments?
Yeah, I mean, we've said this, and we'll see. Ultimately, our actions have to reflect it. But my belief is that in 2026, there's maybe a somewhat of a natural way to say, hey, we're just going to kind of concede in this sport. We're not going to really lean into it. Not until proven otherwise. My objective is for us to be competitive and resource every sport in a way where we can compete. I don't think there's a benefit to have kind of a sacrificial lamb just so that we can better resource another sport. And so that's been something that's certainly consumed my time as we've gotten started is, where do we stand in comparison to our peers in each respective sport, and how do we get ourselves? And I think there's been some sports where, we've been well resourced and now we just need to maintain that. I think there's candidly been some sports where, for comp purposes, we're below where we need to be able to hold our coaches accountable for performance. And I think it's easy to say we want to win in every sport. Well, you need to resource sports to be competitive. And my job is as an AD, and I think that's the responsibility we have, is resource your sports in a way that can align with what your expectations are. And I think we've got a few that are out of whack right now that we got to draw back in.
Said. What's your relationship like with Brett Yormark? I'm assuming, it's been pretty good from his perspective as you start out.
Yeah, a lot of respect for Brett. And, that's got something to do with the fact that he's kind of a non-traditional outside the box candidate as well in terms of his media experience, his pro sports experience. And so, I love, you hear and watch him and just churn and see some big ideas flowing through it. And I think that's where we got to be as a conference. What I think our greatest strengths really are is the parity and the commitment that we have to each other. You've got 16 schools that I think really see each other as partners in an equitable way, and I think that when you combine the 16 of us, we're an incredibly strong group of folks. And so we've got a commissioner who's a dreamer. He's a rainmaker and a visionary. And he's going to look for big ideas, and he's going to swing and miss on a couple of them, and that's okay, because that's what those guys do. And some of them I think are going to be difference makers for us as a conference. So a lot of respect, a lot of enjoyment just to watch him work and to do his thing in a way that's beneficial for our conference.
Do you have a law degree?
No,
I feel like you need one in this. I feel like I do. Just talking about it.
I've got a good relationship with General Counsel. I'll just say that. I know our General Counsel very well. And
I know what I don't know.
And the staff very well, and they probably get more emails and texts from me than what they prefer. But yeah, I think we all in this current era need to be buttoned up and dialed in with the legal side and make sure everything's buttoned up really well.
What do you think? There's so much talk about what the fix needs to be. What is it in your mind, or what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think this conversation from the congressional help that's become the big news of this week is a first great step. I mean, we're going to need something like that to help get us where we need to be. I love for us as an industry. I think someone wrote it well, like the word unsustainable has almost become too cliche.
Yeah, right.
And
White noise.
I hate to say that because I just feel like that's become the common thing. It's accurate, but let's throw solutions out there. Let's talk, every time we get a chance, let's get together and let's talk about tangible changes that we can make to help remedy where we're at. And, this is an amazing industry. People are tuning in to watch at record levels with amazing, first and foremost, student athletes that are students first, putting up great scores. We're at Baylor very fortunate. We had the highest GPA from the spring semester that we've ever had. All of our teams were 3.0 or higher. So there's a lot of good stories that are happening. We need to focus on that and focus on the solutions, I think, more so than focusing on just acknowledging the challenges and the problems.
Do you think that there's a path towards some semblance of collective bargaining? Do you think that's the fix more than congressional intervention?
I think that's certainly a possibility. I mean, that's just gets out of my lane to really know what the potential cons are associated with that. To me, set aside the negotiation terms and the legalities of it, I'm always, transparency and collaboration usually merit and equate to good outcomes. And I realize that's more complicated when you talk about the CBA and collective bargaining and all that. But to me, an inclusive conversation that really talks about what are shared objectives and what are we all collectively doing to say what can we do to leave it better for the group that comes behind us, and whether that be administrators, presidents, student athletes. I think that's a healthier conversation. And so if that's what's necessary for us to get there, great. If it's possible to do that, absent of that, but the student athletes still having a very prominent voice, I'm an advocate of that. So I would just say, whether it's CBA discussion or not, collaboration and open dialogue and transparency, I think, is the key for us.
Doug McNamee is the new athletic director at Baylor, and we appreciate you joining us here on Big 12 Radio at the spring meetings.
Enjoyed it, man. Thank you. Yeah.
We're visiting here with Doug McNamee, the new Baylor athletic director. the Big 12 spring meetings at the Omni PGA in Frisco.
And Sims will keep it. Nice decision there to get deeper into Utah territory.
What a great individual effort.
On 3rd and long, he got 20. Brown now carries. Hanachur was leading the way. Then the ball came out at the end of that. Seconds ticking away. Sims in the pocket. He's going to throw short, and that's Brown.
It's been dismal so far for the Sun Devils. That has to feel good.
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Brandon Marcello from CBS Sports, who we had on earlier in the show, reporting that the Big 12's executive committee will meet today to discuss possible sanctions against Texas Tech. A source told CBS Sports that via Brandon Marcello. The full board of presidents and chancellors will meet Monday. Big 12 athletic directors met earlier this week to voice their opinions. So we're starting to get a little bit of information into the approach that Brett Yormark is taking in this. Hard to disagree with the approach here. Not much has been made publicly or voiced publicly about what's being said. Big 12 ADs met. The report was that basically everybody was on one side and Texas Tech was on the other side. So now you meet with the executive committee to decide if there's sanctions or punishments or penalties that are needed. And then on Monday, they'll get together with all the athletic directors, and maybe we'll hear from the Big 12 the next week.
It's a process, and this is another step in that process. Some of the things that Cody Campbell has said, all the interviews that we see, the outcry of support against him playing has just been remarkable. Like, I was trying to think about all the other NCAA cases, and I'm trying to figure out why the NCAA takes so many L's, and what makes this one unique is it's the first L when it comes to sports gambling and sports betting. I was also just reading about all the backlash, and you brought this up at the top of the show with the NBA Finals last night. Like, De'Aaron Fox going for that layup, it's being like referenced as the biggest blunder since Chris Webber called the timeout for Michigan.
Pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
And I thought he got fouled, but you go back and you watch it in slow motion, just a sensational defensive play.
Oh, I would, as somebody rooting for the Spurs, I would have been furious if they would have called a foul on that. Because it was
rooting for the Spurs.
Yeah. Even like
bail
that,
him out.
Correct.
Yeah. Like, he puts his hand on his back as he's going to. That's allowed in the NBA. When he actually elevates for the layup, there's no body-on-body contact. It is clean.
And it is Anunoby on defense, right?
Yes, yeah. But here's the thing. Why did he go for the layup?
Right.
Why? That is the biggest. All you had to do was
spent the majority of his career in Sacramento, and we're finding out why.
all you had to do was just dribble it out. You had a 1-point lead.
Another guy
they needed to foul. It was under 24 seconds.
He was really good.
It was under 14 seconds if they needed a rebound.
When you slow it down and he gets possession of the basketball, he thinks it's going to be a breakaway dunk.
Yes, correct.
Anunoby or whoever it was closing in on him. Like, he's at the foul line. The other guy's not even to midcourt.
I mean, honestly, it's even going for a dunk there is not the right move because then you're still up 3 and they have the ball, so they can still tie the game. So the play there is to take as much time off the clock and then try to get a 3-point lead with two foul shots.
Yeah, great point. Didn't even think about that. Even the dunk doesn't matter.
The Spurs so poorly mishandled the end of this game. It was actually kind of amazing to watch in real time because you could sense, like, once they got it under 10 with about 4 to play, this is a 29-point lead. They were up the entire game. They were up 20 at the end of the first quarter. Like, they were up big the entire game. Once the Knicks got under 10 with 4 minutes to play, it was over and the Knicks were going to win because the Spurs started pressing. You could tell they were sped up. Like, they were just completely flustered. And, I think you look in those moments for the coach to kind of try to help settle the team, and I'm not sure that any of those guys were settled. Like, I'm not sure the coach, I'm not sure Mitch Johnson was. You could just see it happening. It was like a car crash you could see happening in real time.
Dude, and that's why I've always gravitated towards the sport of basketball. There is nothing better in any sport that even comes close to that type of run where you can sense the momentum has swung. In football, you get 20 to 25 seconds between plays to collect your thoughts.
Great point.
Make adjustments.
It's a great point.
Basketball,
it just keeps
so
going
back and forth.
Yeah.
When the collapse happens, there's even during timeouts, like, there's not enough time for a reset.
And guys have to, guys are trying to do more. The more things are going wrong, the more guys are trying to do it individually.
Oh, yeah, they start pressing,
Yes.
playing a little hero ball. Like, watching Houston And it wasn't even necessarily a Duke collapse in the Final Four 2 years ago versus Houston just overcoming all odds during that comeback. You've got guys making free throws that are barely 60% shooters in clutch moments. To watch that in real time, nothing better for the sport. That's what makes basketball so great, is you're on pins and needles all game long, knowing that that moment can happen at any given time.
Yeah, and I just, like, it's a great reminder of, like, what's amazing about sports is, you know, especially in the NBA playoffs where we saw a lot of blowouts in the earlier rounds and games that were just basically unwatchable, especially like the Knicks had a lot of blowouts in the early series. But it's like you can watch any sporting event on any given night and see amazing. And you have no idea it's coming. There's no indication it's coming. I mean, they were down 29. Most of the people inside that arena thought it was over. Like, that, to me, is what's so profound and amazing about sports. Is like at any given night, the craziest things can happen, things that you've never seen before, never thought you would ever see before.
Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. I'm going to see Aries Spears perform tonight. Do you know who that is?
World-famous astrologer. One with the stars.
Taven, do you know who Aries Spears is?
No.
He's
Never
not
heard.
It's a he?
Yeah. Yeah, he is a comic. I'm going to see him at the Addison Improv tonight. And so he's probably most famous for being on Mad TV. And, I mean, he's been kind of a bit actor in many different movies. Like, he was Rod Tidwell's brother, TP, in Jerry Maguire.
Okay.
But I think the thing that he might be most notable for, aside from Mad TV, is, like, he does this really good he's really good at impersonations, especially of rappers. And so there's this old video that I've watched for years of him. He's like a guest on a radio show, and it's on YouTube. You can see the bit, but it's old, so it's like old grainy YouTube, you know. And basically, he just does a medley. He does LL Cool J, Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, DMX, and so he's rapping as he's all of these rappers. It's amazing what he does. Like, he is so good at not only sounding like them, but then also like the lyrics to match lyrically how those rappers are.
Right.
So my son Asher, who's gotten into rap music recently, really into it, and so it's been fun for me to kind of introduce him to a lot of different rap music and artists. I sent him the video. And it's funny because we don't allow our kids to go on YouTube, but this was a YouTube. So I was like, watch the video, but then don't do anything else.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, seriously. Don't watch anything else. Just watch this. And so, but he's like, at first I had to explain to him what was happening because he watched the video. He was like, oh, is it like a song? Like, he didn't understand like this comic was impersonating them. And then as soon as he found out what I said, he was, well, that's fake. And that, to me, was like, oh, wow, this is where we are.
Oh, yeah.
In the world where, like, you can't even really have impersonators anymore. Like, it was such a horrendous realization for me to be like, oh, yeah, of course you think this is fake.
Yeah. Totally.
Of course you think he's lip syncing or this is AI.
Absolutely. And that's for the future of society. And I think you and I have talked about this before. The lost art of human connection is very much going to be a lost art.
Yeah,
We're already trending in that
totally,
direction.
100%.
You and I sitting here for 15 hours a week is going to be so unique and foreign to maybe not our kids' generation, but the ones after them.
Why would I go anywhere when anything I could ever know or need to know I could just do from my phone?
And I find myself doing the same thing. My daughter shows me a video last night of a tornado in Kansas, and I thought, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's fake.
Well, and think about, that's the dynamic here that exists of real videos viewed as fake videos viewed as real. Like, that is Orwellian to a large degree. If you ever read the book 1984, you know, there's tenets in there that are kind of like seem realistic in today's world, but I think the one that maybe is most resonates with me is the idea of the inability to find the difference between real and fake. And most things that we think are fake might be real, and most things we think are real might actually be fake.
Completely.
The inability to distinguish between real and fake is very much the downfall of our society.
Absolutely. And even like with this Sorsby stuff, there's so many
oh my God, yes, great point.
Screenshots and
Right.
texts.
The Venmo
The
transactions.
Venmo transaction from a family member to him. Somebody claims they've been sitting on them since 2023. I could whip that up in ChatGPT in 0.5 seconds.
Yep.
And it
In fact,
would
I
look
did.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So that's a great point. Man, I'm excited to get to the beach. I gotta
Said
say,
nobody ever for Galveston, Texas.
Galveston, Gary, I'm coming in hot. We've got 4.5 hours in the car with the kids. I'm just leaning in.
So
to
how many
chill vibes.
how many kids are making the trip with you?
3.
So you've got, for people that are new to the show, you've got
Yeah.
2 stepkids here,
Mhm.
live here.
Yep.
Is that the right way to refer to them?
Yeah, and
They are your stepkids.
So,
They're your wife's children.
And I've spent enough time in their lives. You know, the youngest is about to be 8. Well, I've been in his life for 4 years now. So half, and come July, it will be over half of his life that he has experienced. I've been a father-like figure. Not his dad, but a father-like.
A father figure. You don't have to say like.
Yeah.
You're playing that role, and you do a really good job of it. You're father to a lot of kids.
Very kind of you to say. And then the oldest is...
Well, look, just showing up, I
10.
think, is most important. Seriously. Just show up. You're ahead of the game if you just show up.
Man, and I'm a long-distance parent for 3 other children, which is a challenge in my life.
Sure.
And a struggle. I'm part of long-distance parenting Facebook groups and...
And I didn't mean the just show up to be a knock on...
No, not at all.
Because just showing up doesn't mean literally all the time.
Exactly. Totally. And that's something that I struggled with for a very long time because I thought my absence physically for everyday routine things would be a major hurdle and have a major impact on their life. But I have positioned it in a way that they're thriving. I wouldn't say I'm thriving because I've got my own issues. Who doesn't, right? But with that said, we're super excited. So my 13-year-old daughter will be joining us on this trip.
Awesome.
She's the one
Because
showing
she's
me.
been here like all summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. She spends a good chunk of summer. We're trying to get her in some, middle school is a weird phase of our lives. So I know
the awkward stage.
Totally. And I know how challenging it is for her. And I'm trying to introduce her to girls at the pool, and I'm coming off as awkward as possible, trying not to embarrass her. It's a very thin line.
You're super not cool, so it's super embarrassing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Tough.
it's a whole thing. But yeah, she showed me the tornado video, which I should mention, like the people in Lawrence, Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas, that part of Big 12 country is very much going through it. Basically, the entire state of Kansas is without power. So our thoughts and prayers certainly go out to that part of the country because these suckers were gnarly. We're talking about tornadoes. We're talking about just storm and winds of over 110 miles per hour. It's pretty wild up there. But yeah, the 4.5-hour road trip is really my probably priority number one, like in terms of hurdles that my wife and I just need to get through. But I'm just going to hit them with, hey, guys, the tide provides. Okay, we're on beach time. The ocean knows best. Just chill vibes. Anytime they're complaining about anything, hey, can we get ice cream?
Sure.
The ocean knows.
Yeah, absolutely. The ocean will take care of it. It's actually the Gulf.
One-liners with zero context.
It's actually the Gulf. It's actually the Gulf of
I'm gonna
Mexico.
acknowledge their question.
It's actually the Gulf of Mexico. Are you going to call it the ocean? Or you call it the Gulf?
I'm going to call it the ocean.
I mean, you can. You can.
Why can't I call it the ocean?
You can't. No, you can. I just didn't know how specific you wanted to be.
The ocean taketh, the ocean giveth away.
You should be the guy that corrects everybody throughout the entire trip. It's, by the way, it's the Gulf. It's not the ocean, technically. It's just a Gulf. Everybody, got to be that guy, Mr. Corrector.
I don't know which one would annoy them more.
Probably Mr. Corrector.
That's beach math.
Yeah.
They're really into money right now, which is also
Who isn't?
really cool as they learn about things. I'm trying to really emphasize you should save every dollar because you never know what's coming.
That's a fool's errand. I've done the same thing to my kids. They can't
not
pass
working out
today in terms of their needs. Yeah, I did. My kids are also obsessed with money. Go figure. Why? Because all people are obsessed with money, and so they learn that from everybody else. So we're teaching our kids that money doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's all about vibes, guys.
All right, thanks as always to our great producers, Anthony Smith with Big 12 Studios, David T-Chains Turner here with Big 12 today on TuneIn. Thanks, of course, to James Westing. I'm Ari Tepkin. We're back tomorrow, but for now we're out. Peace.